in the Bible, bread is a health food.
Yeah.
But not in America.
From the moment you wake up to go to sleep, you're at war. There's a war going on for your soul. For most people that I've seen find it, it's been the greatest vehicle for transforming their life.
No doubt.
The phrase, it's not rocket science. I feel like stuff like that was made to make like normal people feel like we don't understand. Yeah, I mean, in no small way, people are feeling God going to yoga class because they're reconnecting with their body, their own like central self, and they're like,
what does Jiu Jitsu mean to you?
Like there are exorcists.
Yes.
There are people whose job it is to fight a demon for you.
I mean, think about how much ancient knowledge that we just deleted.
Yeah, and I've heard some people say it's because you need to be ready to kill something to eat it. Like, you can't be asleep at the wheel. If you just go, this clarity is awesome, I'm going to meditate under a tree, you're going to miss the next meal.
That's a good one.
You know, so
that's a primal instinct.
Yeah, you're almost, it's almost like clarity by severity. You know, like you're like, this is so severe on my body that really...
I'd have a dang inhaler.
Yeah.
I'd go to Jiu Jitsu, I'd have to hit the inhaler before practice, otherwise I'd be wheezing.
Yeah. And you don't use it anymore?
Not at all.
Dang, that's cool.
At all.
That's crazy.
That's the constant battle with fitness for everyone.
It really is.
The bulk versus the cut.
It really is.
And
that's true.
I think everyone that's in fitness struggles with that.
That's true.
You got a little bit into some food there.
Yeah.
I think you got an interesting diet, right?
Yeah, I drink a lot of milk, but I don't. I need to get on the raw milk thing. I've tried. I'm like gradually adding it in. So I've got raw milk and I've had a little bit of it. I'm really lactose intolerant, and I don't think that it messed my stomach up. I didn't get any pain, but I took like the smallest mouthful and I'm trying to pace it. But as it is right now, like I do go through a lot of milk. I think about you often with diet stuff because I gained a good amount of muscle like the last few years. And part of it was just switching off from like a vegan/vegetarian diet. I had lost a good amount of muscle. But
you're also looking good, bro.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Stacked right now.
Well, and it's a battle because like the no sugar and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can. I don't think that, at least in an optimal sense, that muscle gain on a maximum level or like a muscle gain phase and a health phase are the same thing.
They're not.
You know?
They're not.
And I'm in a muscle gain phase.
Mm-hmm.
So I have sugar. I'll eat bagels for donuts. And I know that my body...
You know what? I take that back. I said it, they're not, but I think it can be.
I think it can be.
It's extremely difficult.
Exactly. Yep. I definitely think it can be. I agree. It comes down to, I mean, I know like food allergies, like how far into an elimination diet, because some people have really robust systems where they get no reactivity to anything. And
mm-hmm.
Red 40 is just as bad for them as it is for us, but for some reason they can handle it. I'm not saying they should eat that,
right.
But there are certain things like flours.
It doesn't affect them as bad.
Yeah, exactly. Or like just oats and rice and like a lot of complex carbs that people
mm-hmm.
will eat. A lot of people live on that stuff and do great.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I do pretty well on it. I notice I wouldn't call myself gluten intolerant, but I 100% feel a difference in my joints 1 or 2 days after eating it. I know I do. And that's been for years. But when I'm in like a gain phase like this, food with pain and inflammation is more important to me than no food and no pain and inflammation.
Gotcha.
Which is a weird idea. I mean, it's not, and I'm moving away from it already. Like I had this idea of how long I want to push it, and like, you know, with bulking, especially if you're gaining body fat, you got to slingshot past where you want to be,
mm-hmm.
and then lose some fat and hopefully end up where you want to be.
For sure.
So the last time I did this, I thought like, I'm getting huge, and then I cut down, and I was only a little bit heavier than before, and I was like, I got to commit to this for a little bit longer. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been pretty deep in a limit. I definitely haven't gone as strict as you, and it's really inspiring.
Thank you.
But I know that's a direction that I'm heading. I know it's a direction I have to head. I feel it. I've had some serious like back injuries over the years, and everything feels worse when I'm like, it's not the lifting, it is like the diet and inflammation, or even just getting bigger. Like it's harder to bend, like my stomach to my thighs when I squat down is like, my heels want to come up now because I can't like round around my leg. My back doesn't want to round the same amount around my legs. There's weird anatomical stuff that you don't think like getting slightly bulkier in your body is going to happen. That you realize, like, I used to do jiu-jitsu with my dad's son when I was a teenager, and he's in pretty good shape now, but he was heavier set then. And we would do moves, and he would say, I have a thing in the way that like I can't move like that. I'm telling you, I can't reach here. There's a thing in the way. And I'm not overweight, but I feel like after a big meal, I cannot like fold. Like I don't feel like I've ever taught yoga for sure when I'm, so I feel that I think it's a strange place to be in, because I've gotten a lot of compliments over the last year or two about being like, you're looking good. And I'll tell people when they'll compliment me, I'm like, thanks, I'm feeling heavy though. I'm kind of ready to come back down. Actually, I'm not sure if like, I know basically as soon as I clean up my diet, a bunch is going to fall off of me. And I'm kind of, if I end up exactly where I was before, then this was all a sham. then it's not real. Like it's,
I guess we're going to find out. That's
yeah,
gonna be
exactly.
a great experiment with yourself.
Well, it's funny you say that, because that's how I've always looked at it.
Yeah.
I'm not somebody who wants to only do the optimal thing. I want to know what things are like.
Yeah.
I want to know what things feel like. So I've been a vegan and vegetarian, and I've been like 145-pound yoga teacher,
Wow.
And that was only a couple of years ago. And
Yeah.
I was 188 before I came here. So there's like 35
That's
pounds.
a huge gap.
Yeah, it's huge.
Huge gap.
But I look at pictures of myself like shirtless, and I'm like, I kind of like the way I looked then. Like I was leaner and stuff, So there's all these things of like, I also
that's
don't
the
think,
constant battle with fitness for everyone.
It really is.
The bulk versus the cut.
It really is.
And
that's true.
I think everyone that's in fitness struggles with that.
That's true. You feel thin when you're lean, and you feel fat when you're bulky.
Yep. It's like, which one do I want to do?
That's true.
It's the constant battle. But I think it's a good idea to experiment and practice or see what your body's capable of to try to find that optimal zone that you like to sit at.
Yeah, definitely.
And then maybe you find the optimal zone, or maybe you find that you like cycles.
Yeah, that's true. Of being a little bit heavier and like lighter.
You just keep going back and forth.
That's interesting. Yeah, maybe that there's this weird thing where like you saying that almost just gave me permission to like be how I've always been. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I've been 183 in 2013. So I've been this heavy, and then was 140 something between that. I've gone up and down. But I'll literally go through phases where I'm like, I like eating lighter. I like stretching more and running more and not lifting. And then I'm like, now I want to lift heavy and get strong. And the pendulum does swing.
The different phases of life.
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, for me, the main thing that started all this was a jiu-jitsu tournament.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah, it was my first tournament as a blue belt.
Dang, okay.
And first time doing IBJJF.
Oh, dang.
Which is the biggest
serious competition.
Jiu-jitsu organization.
Yep, they are.
So there's more competition. So first time at blue belt, I'm like, all right, here we go. First match, went up against a dude that was much better than me.
Oh, dang.
He got his purple belt like 2 weeks later.
Oh, and you were a new blue too, right? Yeah.
So I got the takedown right into his closed guard, and immediately my arm was under attack.
Yeah.
So the whole time I'm just trying to free my arm.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, he's got me belly down arm bar, but I'm feeling no pain because my adrenaline's pumping so bad. I'm like, maybe I can wiggle out of this. And then I hear pop, pop, pop.
Oh, no.
Dude, my tendons from here on my elbow all the way up to my pinky, and then all the way to my armpit.
Yeah.
Shot. So then I was bulking at the time. Not bulking.
Dang.
I was at a...
But you're in like kind of
strength gain.
Yeah.
Strength gains. So then I couldn't lift. I couldn't lift a 5-pound dumbbell.
100%.
So I'm like, all right, there's no point in cutting it, or no point in bulking anymore. Let's go into a cut.
Yeah.
And then during that time, I was hearing about these biohackers Gary Brecka. I don't know if you heard
Oh
of him.
yeah, the guy that helped out Dana White recently.
Yes.
Yep.
So Gary Brecka, I was hearing him talking about folic acid.
Yes.
Which is in all the bread and the
Yes.
grains, and it's called enriched or fortified, and they add folic acid after the fact. This just happened in the 90s. They made it a law where they have to do that.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Yeah, so it's only in the United States. You can
That's
go
so
to other
crazy.
countries in Europe. They don't have folic acid.
Really?
And that's why you can go to Italy, eat a bowl of pasta, and you're not bloated.
I've heard people say that. Do you
I have
think that's
too.
what that is? I've
think
heard
so, too.
everybody say it, and it's weird because they say it's so specifically outside of the U.S.
Yes.
where that makes sense. Where if there's this one thing they're putting in,
I think it's the folic acid.
that's so interesting.
Because he says it's anti-digestion.
Right.
And then some people really can't handle it.
Right.
And those people, their bodies react.
Right.
And often they react with mental health issues.
Oh.
So he was saying
dang.
that all these kids with ADHD and stuff,
Bro,
it's coming from the folic acid.
that's crazy.
And all these kids' foods are bread and grains.
100%.
So I heard about this. I'm like, screw it. I'm going to cut right now.
Yeah.
And let me see what happens if I cut out all the breads and grains.
Yeah.
So I started eating steak and potatoes every day. That's all I ate.
So awesome.
Dude.
It's such good foods too. Like,
Oh,
are
yeah.
you tired of them?
No.
That's awesome.
No. People always ask me,
That's so dope.
do you get tired of eating the
It
same
looks
thing every day?
delicious.
I'm like, no. I love
Especially,
it.
bro, if you gotta
Every
bring
meal.
food somewhere, like like this motherfucker knows how to cook steak and potatoes. It's all he
I ain't
eats.
gonna mess this up. Yeah, no. And it tastes amazing every single time. So,
That's cool.
And that's what I heard about the Jordan Peterson diet.
Yeah.
The
I eat
pure,
beef and salt, and that's it.
that's it.
Yeah. He
So
seems pretty
part of me was
upset
like-
about it sometimes.
True. But I was like, if they're healing these crazy health issues with
Yeah.
that, maybe it's worth trying. But I didn't really have any crazy health issues.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let me just try the bread. Let's see what happens. Get rid of
Yeah.
that. First month, I lost 10 pounds.
That's crazy.
I was
See, that
once-
would freak me out. Even if it was like good looking weight, like you just lost fat. I still feel like I'd be like, oh, fucking 10 pounds. Like, how hard did I work for those 10?
Yes,
You know?
and because it's such a struggle to put it on. I don't know
Exactly.
for you. For me,
Yeah,
I
skinny white guys, dude.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how we're built.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of work to put that on. But I said, what's the point of me having it if I can't lift heavy?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let's embrace this cut. Boom. I was like, whoa. And then I felt better.
Mm-hmm.
No brain fog, no grogginess, no
Yeah.
mid-afternoon crash.
That's crazy.
I'm like, was it coming from the bread? I don't know. It's the only thing that changed.
Right.
And then, but I was still having acne and some other stuff. So then I was like, okay, what happens if I go further and cut out some extra stuff? It didn't just happen at once. This was a
Right.
slow progression.
Right.
I started with cutting out the breads, and then I heard about the milk.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I ate a lot of ice cream.
Mhm.
No. That's not what happened. I threw cheese on the potatoes one time.
Oh, dang.
I was
okay.
like, some cheese would go great on these taters.
Yeah.
Load them up with cheese. My acne flared up.
Oh,
and
wow.
I didn't realize it had cleared up.
Okay.
Because it would go in stages. It
Yep.
would come in, but it was always bad.
Yep.
I was like, no way. Is this the source of my acne? Tested it again. Sure enough, dairy gives me acne.
Dang.
Which, yeah, I'm sure you've heard me talk about it. I
Yeah.
think it's the enzymes
Yeah.
that are found in the raw milk, but during the pasteurization process, they kill them off.
Yep.
And I think my body needs those enzymes. Otherwise, I can't process it.
Right.
And if I can't process it, it results in acne.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Weird.
Like your body's just like, but that's I mean, not to derail this, but I guess that's why like people that use meth get scabs. Their body's pushing things that it can't process out through your skin.
Right.
So I wonder what it is in milk. That's crazy.
Right. And that is another thing that I've been talking about recently is like, hey, when you've got something like that, like acne, a skin disorder or something, it's your body saying, hey, something's wrong.
Yeah.
It's not natural to have acne.
Right.
Yet so many people do.
Yep.
And now that I've gone through this journey, I'm like, I think the food's responsible for most crap that people are experiencing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is crazy. So that was the milk, led me to that. Cut that out, and then I'm like, okay, I might as well cut out sugar. I'm like, I'm already
Yeah.
this far, see what happens. And I've got to find a replacement for all these things because you can't just cut it out and leave a void.
Yeah,
I think that's a very important detail.
Yeah, that's true.
So the bread, I cut it out, replaced with potatoes.
Yep.
And the milk, I quit that cold turkey when I found out it was acne.
Yep.
And that sucked.
Yeah.
Because I love cheese and ice cream.
Yeah.
I love cheese.
Yep.
So then I started hearing Paul Saladino. Have you heard of that guy? He was talking about raw milk and the enzymes and stuff. I was like, I wonder if I could handle that.
Mm-hmm.
It was after I moved back here and I did some research, found some at Toucans.
Oh, yeah.
Tried it out. No acne. I was like,
dang.
Whoa.
That's crazy.
Crazy. So that's been this whole evolution. And now that I've cleaned up the diet, all my health issues are gone. Asthma, allergies, acne, eczema.
Oh, dang. Asthma, too.
Asthma. I've had asthma since middle school.
Really?
I'd have a dang inhaler.
Yeah.
I'd go to Jiu Jitsu. I'd have to hit the inhaler before practice.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd be wheezing.
Yeah. And you don't use it anymore?
Not at all.
Dang. That's cool.
At all.
That's crazy.
And that was it was a way of life for me.
Right.
Was to carry that dang inhaler. My parents would always be like, another inhaler? I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, I can't go without it.
Yep.
Now, it's so nice to not need that.
That's crazy.
And so that's what's keeping me on this diet now is like, I just love the way I feel.
Yes.
And it's like, I just feel better in all these different ways. So I'm like, and the food tastes amazing.
Yeah.
Steak and potatoes, eggs and bacon.
True. It really is like such a classic, delicious meal.
Yeah. So I don't get sick of it.
Yeah.
As much as people are like, dude, really? The same thing every single day? How do you not get sick of it? I'm like, probably the biggest reason is the way I feel.
Yeah,
but
that's
also it tastes amazing.
Yep.
So that combination just keeps me dialed in.
Yep.
But now this elbow, man, it's been 18 months now and it's still here.
Oh, dang. Yeah.
So it finally healed around like November, December, healed, and I was starting to push some weight again.
Yeah.
And incline bench, I got up to like 50-pound dumbbells.
Yep.
It started hurting. I was like, no.
Dang.
No.
Yep.
So now I'm back to 5-pounders.
Figuring it out. Yeah.
Just going to start again and not do anything that hurts it.
Yep.
Pain's saying, hey, don't do that.
Yep.
So I'm back on this journey again. It sucks, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to stay lean for a while till my elbow heals, and then I'll consider a lean bulk.
Yes.
Just
and that's going to be interesting.
Gains.
That'll be really interesting. I've thought about that, and I feel weird saying this for the second time that I've thought about you. But I've thought about you with your diet, and like, because I'm right on the edge of like this past couple weeks, usually my first 1 or even 2 meals, I've been just having ground beef and I'm not adding other stuff. And dude, I feel way, way, way better. Like my energy is way better. I'm not needing caffeine in the part of the day or whatever. But then I'm like carb backloading, and at night I'm going to just kick the rails off and I eat everything, you know, which makes me tired, which helps me sleep. I have trouble falling asleep.
There you go.
So it's kind of a nice combo. But I've thought about like, I've got to clean this up, and just a couple things like, what is my body going to look like if I just choose health over performance, you know?
Health over performance?
Mm-hmm.
Like lifting weights wise?
Yeah. Well, or just like caffeine at 5 p.m. is going to help me train in my night class, but it's going to keep me up.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be performance over health, you know,
Yeah,
just decisions like that, or a pineapple juice before rolling. Like I'll probably have, for me, like if I'm hungry, I'm going to have better endurance. You know what I mean? But the long term, maybe the sugar's not as good as fasting through that workout, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I've thought about what a bulk, or like in my situation, maintaining what was bulked, you know, would look like on an elimination kind of diet like that. Because like I feel like you probably have more things you'll add in eventually, right? Like you've got the avocado going now.
Yeah, and I just added in like a sourdough.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which
without
is
folic acid, right?
Yes.
And then you're doing some raw cheese.
Mm-hmm.
So like that right there is like a Greek or Italian like.
I mean, it covers
picnic
everything
right there. Like I imagine, like it sounds like a picnic in a carnivore Aurelius post.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So the sourdough's been a huge addition because I went a long time without bread.
And bread just feels good.
Yeah.
Like it's got a mouth feel that's not
my God.
that only bread has.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Everyone loves bread.
And it's like,
Everyone loves
and if
bread.
we're going to talk about the Bible,
It's a health
bread's
food.
mentioned a lot.
It's a health food.
That's the only recipe in the Bible is how to make a type of bread.
It's a health food in the Bible.
Yeah, that's true.
But modern bread is tainted.
Yeah, definitely.
Tainted.
Yep.
And that's where I was like, okay, I'll consider trying this sourdough because I was explaining my diet to a buddy in the sauna.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, you're looking shredded. What's the secret? I was like, dude, all food.
Yep.
And he's like, okay. And then I was telling him about my elimination diet. He's like, really? You don't do any bread? He's like, my mom makes some sourdough, and she is all crazy into it because of the ingredients and the crap that they put in the other bread.
Oh, dang.
So maybe you should try it. I was like, you should ask her if it has folic acid.
Yeah.
Is it enriched or fortified wheat?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I'll find out. So he asked her. She's like, dude, no folic acid. I was
Really?
like, really? I was like, I'd be interested to try it. He's
Yeah.
like, dude, I'll have her bake you a loaf. I was like, that's awesome. Thank you, bro.
That's cool.
So yeah, she made me a loaf. I tried it. No bloating, nothing.
Dang.
No, I was like, but it wasn't like I was feeling serious bloating before.
Yeah.
But you know that lethargic feeling.
Oh,
like
yeah,
you said, it makes you
definitely.
tired. It,
Yep,
a
it
little
does.
groggy, the little brain fog.
Yep.
So I don't feel that anymore.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay. So now I'm actually gonna go pick some up after I leave here.
Heck
I've
yeah,
been-
that's sick.
yeah. So she lets me know when she's baking, and she's like, "Do you want a loaf?" I'm like, "Yes, please." So,
Yeah, definitely.
so that's been cool.
That
A
is
new
cool.
addition.
Yep.
But my point is, the reason I'm saying this is because bread can be a health food,
Right.
but usually it's not in America.
Yeah.
It's GMO, sprayed with all kinds of chemicals,
Yep.
added folic acid,
Yep.
and then they usually add a bunch of additives and prepreservatives.
Yeah.
So that's just shit on top of
There's
shit
so
on
much
top of
stuff in
shit
there, I know.
on top of shit.
I know. We read the label. We're like, they fortified it.
Yeah.
They're so good to
It's
us.
enriched.
Yeah.
It sounds
They're
amazing.
enriching us.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. So that is something that I really want to spread awareness on, and I've been thinking about making a video about it. And the opening line, like, in the Bible, bread is a health food,
Yeah.
but not in America.
Yeah, that's true.
And then maybe learning from my buddy's mom how
Yeah.
she makes her sourdough, and maybe show that in the video. Like,
yeah, that's
this is how
dope.
you can make healthy bread.
Yep. I would be interested in longer form, like YouTube content,
Dude.
like a little bread cooking, like 30-minute cooking video.
Heck yeah.
You know, that would be sick.
Heck yeah. And I'm planning on doing that. That is another thing that I want to utilize with these cameras.
Heck yeah.
Is starting to do more long form. And that's
Yep.
what I was saying. I want to start focusing on quality now.
Yep.
And showing different ways on how to live this lifestyle.
Yep.
You can, like cooking. I can show you how to make a good steak and
Yep.
potatoes.
Yep.
In several different ways
Yep.
for both. So yeah, that's food, man.
Yeah.
It's so important.
It's crazy. Yeah, it seems like even bigger than like exercise. Like if you're gonna get food or diet, or like diet or exercise dialed, diet.
Yeah.
Like it's not ideal or optimum, but it's enough exercise for you getting out of bed and doing your thing. Like, but you can't. Like the getting out in bed and doing your thing of food is way worse.
Yes.
Like you've got, like if you're going to choose one hill to die on, make it diet.
yeah.
You know?
And that's what I tell people in my programs. I say, this program is going to help you build a solid foundation of strong, dense muscle.
Yep.
And you're going to build muscle. You're going to build strength. But if you're trying to get your dream physique, it's 80% diet.
Yeah, it really is.
It's
Yeah.
80%
Yeah.
diet.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, you could really, I mean, you could get 6-pack abs on 100% diet. Like
Yeah.
every starving person has them for some period of
Yeah.
time, you know?
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, building muscle, you're not building anything without food.
Right.
You could work out till you're blue in the face, but if you don't eat anything, you're actually going to lose weight, you know? Yeah, that's crazy. Do you do any fruit?
I do fruit.
Okay, yeah, no, I've seen, yeah, you do.
Organic.
Apples, right?
Yeah, apples, mangoes, blueberries.
So is it kind of whatever with fruit? Like you're down to try fruits, and
Yeah.
that's an okay carb source for you.
That is my preferred carb source.
Okay.
Well, besides potatoes.
Yeah.
And the reasoning behind it was because I'm kind of getting to where I'm anti-veggie.
Dude, I know.
Which is kind of crazy.
I know. Isn't that weird? But I know
My
what you're
mom
saying.
always said, eat your greens, eat your greens.
Yeah. And it seems like the ones that you don't need out of all of them are the greens.
Yeah.
Like carrots, root vegetables. I mean, potatoes a vegetable.
Yeah.
But the things that grow underground, garlic, onions, some of that, all that stuff's awesome. Mm-hmm. But the other stuff is
the leafy greens.
It's like leaves of food. It's not the food. It's like
here's this perspective that sold me on it.
Yeah.
Was the plant, how does it make food?
It sucks in light from the sun.
Photosynthesis.
Yeah, it's leaves.
Through the leaves.
You're eating solar panels.
Yes. This is the plant's food production source.
Right.
The plant doesn't want you to eat its production
Right.
source. So these plants develop defense chemicals like oxalates and these other types of defense chemicals that they send out into their leaves.
Where we get kidney stones, right?
I'm not sure on that, but
kidney stones are mostly made of calcium oxalate.
Really?
And the food that you have to avoid if you have them is spinach.
Whoa.
It's the highest in oxalic acid.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I mean, getting your spinach or kale smoothie or salad might be what's leading to pissing out rocks for a lot of people.
Dude.
Which is crazy because they think it's soda and those things aren't helping.
Yeah.
But it's different type of calcium deposits, but I guess calcium oxalate is the big one.
Dude.
Which is crazy.
So I asked ChatGPT, I'm like, what are the essential minerals and nutrients in leafy greens that I can't get anywhere else? It couldn't come up with anything.
There aren't any?
No, I mean, it would give me these vague, crazy answers. I'm like, what exact nutrients are not found in meat or something else?
Right.
It couldn't name anything.
Right.
So then I started doing more research, and you can find everything in a plant in meat.
Dang.
But you can't find everything in meat in a plant.
No cholesterol.
No cholesterol.
Cholesterol only exists in animal fats.
Some people think are bad. Cholesterol's bad.
That's crazy.
I don't think cholesterol's bad.
No, yeah. I mean, the sterol, you can only make your hormones out of cholesterol.
Right.
So
it's an essential building block for us.
You stop. I've wondered what happens to, I went without receiving cholesterol for a long period of time. I had a weird experience. This is totally anecdotal.
How was that? Your journey? Your vegetarian
It was
journey.
good. It was interesting. I mean, at the time, I felt like I was doing something. I was also doing it for a girl.
Okay.
And so, but I had done it before, like for yoga. And so I was like, I can also do this for a girl. Like, I can be this guy. You know what I mean? But it was good. But I remember a couple months into it, I had this weird experience that I've never had before. And to this day, I wonder if this was really I have like pretty big legs. And we were at a music festival, and it had been months without like any meat or anything like that. But I was still lifting and trying to work out, and I had lost a little bit of weight. But at the time, I still felt like I looked pretty good. I think I was in that stage where I had eliminated a lot of unhealthy stuff, but I hadn't been without some of the animal stuff for so long. Like my body could still figure it out before your hair starts getting real dry and you start like losing color to your skin and stuff. You know, even people's eyes start to lose color. It's weird. It's terrible.
So you were in that
I was in the down. Yeah, I was on
switching.
the down. Yeah, exactly. And we were at a festival, and I could not like get up. Like we were in the back of a truck. I couldn't go. We wanted to go hear the music. I couldn't get myself up. And when I would walk, I felt this feeling that I kept describing it to the person I was with. It feels like my body is eating my legs. I just kept saying that. I'm like, dude, I feel like too tired. Like my legs are just shaking. And it's not like we were walking all kinds. It was just like I literally just felt like my body was eating my legs for energy. Like that's what it felt like. I mean, the only food we could get there were these fried plantains. It was like chopped up little bananas, deep fried. And it's crazy because you start to get, anything you do long enough, you start to like, there's a danger of developing some pride in, And so I remember we would go, and I bought the same plate of plantains for $18 from this food truck. 3 different times that day. And I remember like the 4th time coming back to the dude being all super nice about it and hooking me up with other extra stuff that was not meat. Because he could tell that like this is the only place these dudes can eat. But I remember him being like, come here, my brother, I got this stuff. Like, he was treating me that way because I was sticking to some thing of like not eating meat. I could tell it was like this, oh, this guy is doing, let me give you this extra stuff. To where now I'm like being treated differently in a good way because of this noble decision thing I'm making, you know? So it was, I think it was not good for the gains for sure.
Yeah.
I think it was good at the time. It's interesting because I had my son, or at least I conceived my son during that time.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know. He's very gentle and bendy and soft. I don't know if that has any effect on it that I hadn't. They make you eat that way before you do like ayahuasca or certain like psychedelic ceremonies and stuff too. And I wonder, there is something like Buddhist monks and even the like Christian Orthodox monks of like Mount Athos and stuff, generally don't eat meat. And there is, I still think, even though like I think like carnivore gets your body healthier, right? But that still might be, there might be some in like denying the body is good for the soul, right? Good for the spirit to like
denying the body is good for the soul.
Like to like fasting,
Okay.
taking self-control,
Yeah.
something like that is good for you spiritually.
Yeah, I think so.
Like in Orthodox Christianity, twice a year they do 40-day fast where they're cutting out all of the healthiest foods, you know. And other
You're saying no to your instinct to eat,
right,
and that's gonna help you mentally because you gain that power over yourself.
Yeah,
and you're doing it for a higher purpose.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I think like you could probably do it a lot of other ways, but fasting definitely requires some type of self-control. You know,
no doubt.
But I do think there's something, if you want to get into like very esoteric, even like yogic, energetic kind of language, there's something with meat being grounding, which is good, but also it feeding the root center of us, which gives us good grounding and base, but also holds us here. And this idea that like to feed only the higher centers with only light rabbit foods, you know what I mean, is a way to attain higher spiritual insights.
Interesting.
And having been down that road, I think there's merit to it.
Really?
I really do. I think that there's, and I think that that's why certain faiths will have you do that without making it your life practice. It's
Right.
for monks to do it as a life practice. But we'll have you do those things for periods of time. It's just like, it would be a lot better not to sleep. You just be awake, just podcast all day, just clean all day. You know what I mean? Just be productive only. It's just like we're talking about programming in the party. Like, if you you're going to sleep tonight. If you were just like, but I could just get twice as much work done and just do that. Like, that's not a good idea based on experience, but we try to do that with other areas of our life. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I'm going to only eat protein. I'm going to eat a lot of it all the time. There's might be an idea of even starving your body of protein might make it more efficient at the usage of protein. Just like relaxing from the sun might make your body want to absorb some the next day, whereas if you just stayed out in the sun, you're going to get chronically sunned and sunburned, whereas maybe that exists with even healthy foods because of that, everything in moderation,
Yeah.
Whereas even maybe that pendulum swings where, I don't know, in this thread of talk, maybe it would be good every once a year to do like a week of only potatoes. You know what I mean? Where your body gets like...
Have you ever done a 3-day water fast?
Yeah. Yep, I've done a handful of like water only fasts.
I did one of those and I felt incredible.
Yeah.
And once you get through the first 10, 12 hours, the hunger goes away.
Yep.
I felt incredible.
Yeah.
Full of energy.
You do feel like optimized.
Like whoa,
Yeah.
energy, like
Yes.
crazy.
Yep.
No, I think I messed up because I was training jujitsu, and you
Yeah.
probably shouldn't do that on your first one ever. So
Yeah.
like I shut down probably like the halfway through the third day.
Yep.
I was like, okay, I got to eat. I'm getting shaky.
Yeah. You got to salt your water too.
I was doing a little
Massively.
bit of that,
Okay.
but it's just the pink Himalayan salts, and I wasn't doing nearly as much as I do now.
Yeah.
So I think now if I did it again, which I want to, because
Yeah.
I did feel different. Like
Yeah.
the state of mind was just
Oh, yeah.
so clear, and
Yeah, and I've heard some people say it's because you need to be ready to kill something to eat it. Like you can't be asleep at the wheel if you just go, this clarity is awesome, I'm going to meditate under a tree. You're going to miss the next meal.
that's a good point.
You know, so
that's a primal instinct.
yeah, you're almost it's almost like clarity by severity. You
Yeah.
know, like you're like this is so severe on my body
You
that
go
I'm
into
becoming
survival
clear because
mode.
I have to.
Survival
You know,
mode.
yeah. But I don't know. I still think it's a good thing. I mean,
Yeah.
there's even, in Matthew, there's a demon that won't come out of the boy. This when they ask Jesus why they couldn't cast the demon out, and he says this type only comes out by prayer and fasting. And the new version of the Bible, what they've been releasing, they've been removing the word fasting out from that verse.
Really?
Which tells you all the more how important it is. Really look it up. They've been removing the word fasting in all like the newer translations of the Bible.
Really?
Out of that verse in Matthew.
Man.
It's the boy who like throws himself into the fires and has seizures and all this stuff, and they can't cast the demon out. And then Jesus is the one, and they asked him why, and he said this type only comes out with prayer and fasting. Which in the modern, especially Protestant church, if there's something we think of as a demonic issue, you just pray over. Like it's pretty much prayer. That's something that I like a lot about Catholic or Orthodox background, is that there's like this long tradition. Like there are exorcists.
Yes.
There are people whose job it is to fight a demon for you. We don't really have that in like American Protestant Christianity. We have like faith healers, like the guys that have the real Southern. They're like, "Come on now, stand up and show me you can walk," and they do that, and like they have the real breathy voice, and it's very almost like a character. And the things that you see are, I don't know. Have you seen some of those videos that pop up? Like it's modern where there's like some IG dudes even who are making their thing as like faith healers. They'll like go out,
Yes.
like Austin 6th Street, and like pray over some dude who. It's inspiring their love for God, but I think it misses. I don't think, for me, it doesn't hit. I think that there's something missing. I think it's like if a guy learned 3 months of jiu-jitsu and went out trying to show people self-defense moves on the street.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I think that there are people qualified to teach that stuff. It's just like that. Like jiu-jitsu has a hierarchy, and you don't go like, well, I just train with grapplers. You go, no, do this art BJJ because there's been a hierarchy where we promote and we know who was promoted, and we're able to go into a system and go, this guy was belted by this guy, was belted by this guy. We have that in the church. It's called apostolic succession. We have it since Peter on the way down, you know. That's something that the Catholic and Orthodox church has that the modern Protestant church kind of technically doesn't have. Is it starts somewhere in the like 1800s, 1700s without that apostolic succession. So I think that from like a standpoint of like demons and healing and that stuff,
Dude, exorcisms.
it's wild. It's been like a special interest of mine lately, actually. There's like, it's a YouTube rabbit hole I've gone down.
Really?
These Catholic and Orthodox exorcists that tell stories. There's a bunch of podcasts they've been doing lately, just appearing, talking about just stories that they have. And they don't seem like they're people who have a compulsion to lie or a reason that they would. The stories aren't like this person crawled on the scene. It's not like a movie.
Right.
But it's intense. Like the person speaking Arabic that shouldn't know that language or weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where you're like, dang, that's wild. Where a demon could know that language, but the person couldn't, you know. Or super strength and stuff like that, which is crazy.
Some scary stuff.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, I find it more interesting. I used to get scared by it, but I feel like I don't like any horror movie stuff,
Me
but
either.
I've never watched it. But for some reason, my version of that, I'm okay with like hearing a priest talk about exorcism and stuff. But I feel like, and somehow I'm outfitting myself for a battle. You know what I mean? Like it's
You're
different
learning.
than, yeah, exactly.
What's
I'm
out
not.
there.
It's not fear porn. I'm not like, oh, could you imagine?
Right.
Emily Rose walked through the wall, like, you know.
Yeah.
But
No, that's intense because what's out there and what's capable of possessing someone.
yeah.
And you're preparing yourself to handle a scenario that could pop up.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a weird thing. Like, is that even like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, nobody says that,
No.
you know? I don't even know what the appointing is that God chooses, like, this guy is going to, you know.
I know a couple people that have done some exorcisms.
Dang, that's intense.
Very.
That's
And
really crazy.
I don't think they're liars.
Yeah. No, I mean,
No. Like,
yeah, I
they're
take that
talking
stuff at
these
face
stories,
value.
and I'm like, more proof that the devil's real.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, my dad was a pastor, like I had mentioned. I mean, this is a Protestant church, but he has some stories that are definitely strange of some stuff. I mean, at the time he was the pastor around, and I mean, there's nothing in the Bible that says like somebody has to be appointed or anointed or this or that. You know, it was two followers of Jesus that were walking around. You know,
Yeah.
But I think too, it says somewhere in the Bible that Jesus says many people will do miracles in my name, but then when they get there, he'll say, "Turn away from me, I never knew you." So it's interesting. There are people who even maybe are casting out demons in Jesus' name, but that are somehow falling short of the glory, you know, which is weird.
I'm sure it's happening.
Yeah, that's weird though. I mean, just a situation where somebody can have the authority to cast out a demon, but is somehow falling short. Somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's way above my pay grade to understand, but
yeah.
you know.
I mean, I think just the name of Jesus Christ alone can cast out demons.
I think so too. Yeah.
And it's maybe not the person that's enacting
the
exorcism, but Christ
definitely
coming through them.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's maybe where they can still fall short in some other areas.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I used to be super into like all the alien stuff, and I haven't been for years. But something you'll see pretty consistently on that is even abduction stories. People will say like I was being hauled away and this or that, but they'll invoke the name of Jesus. And I've heard it on multiple stories where people will say, I called on Jesus and these things left me alone and ran away. Like they were afraid of the name of Jesus, which
There's
is
so
really
much
interesting.
power
Yeah, isn't that interesting? It's crazy because that's one of like, I didn't know this growing up when I would have friends that would try and like detract from my faith or whatever, that he was such a provably alive person, like that he was proven to have lived and in the time that we suppose. And not only that, but all the eyewitness accounts. And something that really hits your faith is all the people, I think over 20 people that had seen him walk 3 days after he was killed were martyred for saying that they saw it. Like tortured alive, like worse than you could ever imagine. And all they had to do was say, I was just kidding, I was lying, I didn't actually see him walk after that. I was just kidding. Dude, they would have to put a hot lighter in my armpit. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For real, like it shocks me. It seriously gives me goosebumps, dude. I can't imagine that you would. That's hard faith.
Hard.
Like, I pray to God that we aren't martyred for belief. Like they still are all around the world. In Lebanon and China and all kinds of places, they're killed in mass for believing.
Yes.
And we don't, it doesn't hit home because it's not happening to us, but that's crazy. But it's not the only thing that does, but it's something that really increased my faith in Jesus to go, these people endured the worst pain that is possible. And they knew so much that he lived again, but also that he must have been the Son of God, because even if they knew he lived again, it would have been fine to betray him by their word if he was just a man.
Yeah.
Live your life and say you didn't see him and go but they knew not only that, but that he must have been God also.
They knew.
Because they can't lie. If they lie, then that's their soul. And they go, whatever this searing hot pain is not as bad as this other thing. They had complete faith. Mm-hmm. The fact that they could take it there makes me like, Come on. I'm going to be skeptical because Neil deGrasse Tyson like changes what shape the earth is every 3 months. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy because we're told that smart people are so, the phrase, it's not rocket science. I feel like stuff like that was made to make like normal people feel like we don't understand. Like, I think you or I, people who are endowed with a normal brain and a working constitution, can understand anything that there is to understand.
100%.
There's no gatekeeping. There's not a math or something. It just takes training.
Yeah.
You know, but there's an idea that it's beyond some people, you know?
Yeah. And I think something a little tied in with that is a lot of this is an attack on Christ.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
And mathematics and science, and could be an attack on Christ.
Yeah.
Like,
well, gnosis, like the Gnostics. I mean, supposedly that's the G in the Masonic compass is for gnosis, to know. Like, knowledge is almost like that technology. Like, knowledge and technology are almost the same, you know.
Gotcha.
In the book of Enoch, it's not in the standard Bible, but it supposedly was only removed in the 1800s. It's a major book. It's in some versions of the Orthodox Bible, like the Ethiopian Orthodox. It's still in their Bible, and their Bible predates the King James Bible. You should read it. They have it on audio too. You should definitely check it out. It's got the most information about the fallen ones that come down, the watchers that come in. Part of what they do, there's a guy named Azazel, and they come down and they teach mathematics. They teach women how to create and wear makeup. They teach jewelry and beautifying techniques. These were all things that we don't think of as evil, and maybe they're not, but they were taught to us. It's like it was unnecessary. Do you know what I mean? Like, the only thing that needed to happen is subdue the earth, be fruitful, and multiply. Like, that was already happened. It's not like we needed makeup to multiply. We found each other attractive as it was, you know? But each additional thing, they even say that they taught the splicing and planting of roots. So they literally taught them agriculture. I mean, maybe even diets got less healthy when we learned how to grow wheat and plant and do this instead of, we're not eating the foods of Eden anymore.
Right.
The fruit and the meat, and you know what I mean?
Mass production.
Yeah, exactly. They found, I mean, that's the original mass production. But if you look into Enoch, the fallen angels are the ones that come, and they are responsible for those drastic upswings in our technology.
Interesting.
Which is crazy.
So maybe the Amish are right.
Bro, they're the only ones there were zero deaths and zero vaccinations during COVID of their entire population.
Zero?
They just avoided everything. COVID didn't happen for the Amish. It happened outside of the Amish world.
I believe it.
It's crazy to think about.
I believe it.
I really think that I mean, who knows what they have right and wrong, but they're living closer to in accordance with the scriptures than we are.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I'm sure they got the purest soul, some of the purest souls, like just
it's so interesting.
living that human essence, that core, that bondage, that they've got this community that's just so tight. And
it's funny because when you're a kid, you're like, that's so square, dude.
Yeah.
And then now you're like, what are you trying to do? Well, I just want to save up. I'd like to get a plot of land, maybe live with a couple of my close friends, couple families. We all are like-minded, you know, keep the weirdos out. You're like, that's Amish, dude.
Yeah.
You mean everybody wants to be Amish now.
Dude, I was driving by, coming back from Colorado. I passed some Amish communities.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, it'd be cool just to hang out with them for a week.
Right.
Just see their way
they
of
just
life.
open up like an Amish Airbnb.
Or like a Native American tribe that's still living their traditional. How cool would that be to spend a week or a month with them?
Just, that's true. And
just
that's
so in touch with nature.
Yep.
And
that one's under attack bad.
What's that? Native American?
Yeah, their cultures it's so sad to see. Like, I grew up in Montana, and there's so much reservation land there, and it's very split in Montana. It's very like white and native. There's like no other colors of people there, basically. It's interesting. They like Coors, or I think maybe it was Budweiser. One of their business models is to open a factory like on either end of every reservation that they can, to like keep them cradle to the grave with alcohol supply and stuff.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Casinos.
Yep, it's crazy. Yeah, well, and they like, I heard somebody say that they like a Native American quote that we got them, that we think we got them like with enslavement or whatever, but that they have the last laugh by giving us tobacco. Which is interesting that they like turned everybody into smokers or whatever. Which, who knows, you know?
I mean, think about how much ancient knowledge that we just deleted.
Oh, dude.
That these guys...
I really don't even buy like the uncivilized savages are. I think they were way more advanced than we think. There's all kinds of pottery and stuff that they've shattered, broken, hidden. The Smithsonian Museum like literally was just vaulted up to basically hide all of the world evidence of like giants and all the good stuff, you know.
Think about their spiritual capabilities.
Yeah.
These people probably had some crazy spiritual connection.
Yeah, I've heard things about like that might be like reasons they kept their hair long and stuff. That there's some spiritual connotation with long hair, which I don't know. But I mean, thinking about animals having antenna or whatever, like it's a part of your body. You should be able to sense if someone touched it, right? Like,
right.
You would think it's a part of you. And they say like if you hold hair up to the light, how it's kind of like rainbowy. They say that it's like a crystalline structure. So if our hair is like a crystal that comes from our head, like it's probably conducive to something, you know.
For sure.
I know yogis would grow it out really long and put it in like a wrap on their head and believe that it like dreadlocking is supposed to keep energy from escaping out of your hair. It's supposed to let the energy go in a circuit back into your body.
I did not know that.
That's why it's locked, which is crazy. I mean, it's one reason, and you're like, I'm not going to be the white dude that has dreads. I've passed that phase of my life, dude. That's an Andy Samberg character now.
When did you get into yoga?
I very first got into it I was 17, and I got like this like wild interest in it. Just like I had a subscription to Black Belt magazine, and I remember an article talking about like yoga. Is it a martial art or and they were like talking, because all these martial artists were like, yoga was ranked among like what people practiced, how many people practiced what martial arts the world over, and yoga was like the top one. I was like, oh dang. And then I saw that they put it in like a martial arts article. I was like, I've never thought about yoga or like anything about it, but I knew my aunt did it a little bit in Montana. And this was like not pre-internet, but not super useful internet. It was slow. I asked my mom if she could talk to my aunt about, because my aunt used like DVDs. So I had her ask my aunt about one. My aunt sent a DVD down, and I started practice with that DVD. It was a style of yoga they call power yoga, which is pretty popular. Very kind of like Ashtanga mixed with like the Hot 26. It's a lot like a hot class that you would take here.
Gotcha.
But it was 90 minutes, and it kicked my butt. Like it's still, I wouldn't be good at it now. And I practiced it off and on, and then kind of left it alone. And then I would get these really like super obsessive interests in stuff. And it happened sporadically with yoga, like throughout my 20s. And I remember when I would torrent like a bunch of instructionals and stuff for Jiu Jitsu, I went like a yoga deep dive. I found like very large torrent files of like all these yoga videos, you know, like a big yoga download online on like a pirate website, you know. And David Swenson was one of the guys, which if anybody who watches is into yoga, you'd know that name. He's like one of the grandfathers of Ashtanga in America. But I was super into that, and I practiced a little bit at home, and I mostly just saw it as like, I would like to be able to do this, but a lot of it I felt like I already kind of was physically capable enough to do. But I didn't actually, I went through like a big breakup in 2015, and I remember I was at a crossroads where I was like, I'm either going to do like yoga. So I had joined, a slight aside, I had joined ballet like 4 years earlier after a breakup to try and like meet people. And in my mind at that time, and that was like 2010-ish probably, I was either going to try yoga or dance to meet a girl.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's
Makes
probably
sense.
a good place to go, you
Yeah.
know? Like we were talking earlier, like where would you meet? It's better than a bar,
Yeah.
you know? And then I went and practiced dance and then got into another relationship. And then after that relationship in 2015, I went over, actually Indigo Yoga is the first place I ever took a yoga class at.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Love that place, by the way.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it was, I believe the lady that founded it is still like around and teaches her some. Her name was Saharu Oda. She's awesome. And if you ask anybody around Indigo about Saharu, she's like legendary for sure. She's really awesome. But it was her class and she was the owner at the time, which I didn't know. It was a Bikyasa class, which is one of the styles that I ended up, it was the first style that I like did a full certification to teach. But I wouldn't say I was like hooked right away. I felt like it was way too hard. Like what it took out of my body was too hard for what like muscle it was going to build. And I would rather commit that to like lifting and stuff. Because honestly, right back on that, like yoga would make me, and I could just interchange that with like mobility work.
Right.
But would make me physically feel better. But lifting would make me physically feel better about myself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I want to look like this, and
Yes.
how you feel about yourself is almost more important than how you feel.
That's very
You know?
true.
Like
It's
I
more
can be in
important.
back pain but think I look good, and I like that better than being pain free and thinking I don't look good.
100%.
Which is so American or ego or something. It's
Ego.
not the right position.
Ego.
I'm aware that it's not. It can't be. You know. And look at the founding fathers of Christianity. Like, if they would bald, you see all like the pictures of the saints and stuff. They all have like hair like around here and like coming up a little bit here and stuff. A lot of them were bald. They weren't like, we've got to chop all our hair off. Like everybody rocked like the balding dad look, and they weren't like, you've got to train your body because not having that little line under your pecs just doesn't look good as a dude. Like, no, that was never said in early writings, you know.
Right.
But somehow we figured that out as like an ideal. And I have to say, of any
Internet.
like, yeah,
It's a huge one.
or
TV.
magazines, yeah, exactly. It's the media, which again,
Media.
dude, I think the devil created it. There's no, you know, the internet we needed is the Holy Spirit connection to God. Like we already had the ether.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is there. Everything is interconnected through a spiritual web. You know,
Yes.
we didn't need the internet. That's like the devil wants to be connected to everything through a web.
Yeah.
That's his net. You know.
Totally.
Yeah, it's wild.
What's some of the biggest insights that you learned from yoga or concepts?
I think, dang, there's a lot.
There's a lot.
Yeah. One of them that you get really well, I think, with difficult hot practices, like hot classes, is like the ability to sit with discomfort. Like getting the Mayday alarms going off. Like, I need to leave, but then not.
Yeah.
And staying with it, you know?
Mental toughness.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's interesting because yoga calls itself a science and, you know, in many ways can be overlaid with other beliefs. And then in other ways, when you dig into it, it's Hinduism, like at its core.
Kundalini.
Yeah, exactly. And you could look at it like the yamas and niyamas are like these basic things to live by. Like the first one is non-harming, like don't do harm. And then there's like non-stealing, and you know what I mean? They're kind of like the 10 Commandments.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's 5 yamas and 5 niyamas. There's 10. But like those are good. And if you could stop there, that's great. But then eventually people, I mean, it leads deeper and deeper down a road that I find is interesting where I think that yoga is really deep and a good path, but I think that modern day yoga that we mostly get here is a more like new age, self-interested type of spirituality. Ooh, where they really try to push you into knowledge of self, and it's very like self-serve. Like one of the, I believe it's brahmacharya is the rule, but one of the niyamas is a connection with your creator. And I saw a thing posted online a number of years ago that was talking about how like yoga is not godly, and should not be tied to anything creator, like, or should not be tied to a god, and is not something, which in its core it was supposed to be. It's supposed to be a system of living that isn't tied to a specific deity. And I do think if we could really look at the way it was intended to be brought forth, I don't think there's anything unchristian about the practice.
No, I don't either.
But I think that there are a lot of things maybe not so savory that are in modern yoga culture. But I think there's a lot of things unchristian in modern Christian culture.
For sure.
So I think modern culture sucks.
For sure.
And
I can see that. I just started this year, so
yeah,
going in with a Christian mindset.
Yep.
I don't see anything that goes against Christianity,
right?
From what I've seen. Now,
yes.
I'm sure there's some stuff out there.
Yep.
But for me, I can completely enjoy the practice, and I feel like I've been able to unlock new spiritual capabilities.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of awesome. Weird to say, but
yeah, no, I totally pick up what you're putting down.
The Shavasana and stuff, like just laying there and being present, like a new form of meditation and connecting with God.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it can be combined with Christianity.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think, what we see, like when I say yoga, what picture popped into your mind?
Like older woman on a mat.
Yeah, right? Not a dreadlocked, dirty dude, cross-legged,
right?
Like with no clothes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even though before long ago, yoga wasn't even allowed to be practiced by women in India.
Really?
Yeah, it's an entirely only masculine thing, just like the priesthood and all those things. Most things where the authority should come through men of things like that, and the certain beliefs, certain things aren't even practiced by women, I don't think yoga should be that way, obviously. Or maybe that's not obvious. I'll say it. If it's not obvious, yoga should be for everybody. But the yoga we see, so it was kind of categorized. There's a guy named Tirulamai Krishnamacharya. They just call him T. Krishnamacharya. And he studied gymnasts and wrestlers. You can find like old black and white footage of him practicing. And he taught Iyengar, which is one of our big kind of revered yoga teachers. He fought Krupatabi Joyce, he taught Krupatabi Joyce, who's the founder of Ashtanga, which is like a really famous style. So there's these major yoga teachers that he taught, and it's what we see in our modern yoga that has the sun salutations and kind of has like, if somebody didn't say it was yoga and you just saw a sped up video of somebody doing it, you would think it's like a youth gymnastics routine or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You're moving your body through these different ways. But he borrowed a bunch. So he is credited with kind of designing and orchestrating the system of what we have now. He went and visited the wrestlers and gymnasts and martial artists and different people and made a system of movement. What it was before that, the only asana that was mentioned in the actual like yoga sutras of Patanjali is just lotus, just a sitting cross-legged. That's the only. So all of the sutras that are written about yoga, of all the nectar that it provides and everything, they're only talking about seated meditation. And all of the writings, anything predating early 1900s, late 1800s, there's no up dog, down dog. So, and for a while that was hard for me because I was like, No, people think they're doing a 5,000-year-old workout, and they think I'm doing an ancient practice. You are, because you're human, and being a human is an ancient thing, and breathing and moving is ancient. But yoga, it's supposedly what we use now, like Ashtanga came from a set of palm leaves that were written on called the Yoga Karunta that I guess Patabi Joyce is supposed to be in possession of, but nobody has seen. Now, Mormons are cool, but same kind of thing like the Joseph Smith, the golden plates, where they're like, nobody has seen it, but we believe what it says, you know? So yoga is such a broad word because yoga is it comes from the root word yuj, which means union. And the idea was supposed to be to yoke yourself back to God. This is a method of yoking yourself to God, of being one with Him. But when it was named, they were still only talking about yamas and niyamas, basically 10 Commandments type things, and seated meditation, like a prayer or fellowship, you know. So the physical aspect, it seems now I still think that formalized yoga is the best way to get what you're looking for if you're looking at yoga and want it. You know what I mean? Because it's like nobody else took the last 150 years and organized that and went, hey, from down dog, you can step through like this, but you can also do this and flip your leg over. For the last 150 years, we've been doing that. So now something that wasn't that, and it's not, these routines aren't 5,000 years old. It almost has become an old tradition, even if only since Krishnamacharya, it's been a pretty long-standing practice now. But I try to be careful of like, this is going to heal your whatever because it's yoga and it's old and ancient. Like things about it are old, like the word yoga is old. You know what I mean? The idea of meditation, a bunch of the words they use. If you have a good teacher, they're probably weaving in some type of scriptures, even if they're like Eastern scriptures and sutras and stuff, into the class or into the structure of it. But that stuff is ancient. And like Shavasana, ancient, seated meditation. But the idea of the physical abilities of it, they say that was for young, like military aged boys to help them get their energy out so they could sit and meditate.
Right.
But it's weird how it was that and has become the most popular feminine form of exercise in the US for sure.
Yeah.
You know? But it's interesting. I have this love, I don't want to say love hate, but I have such a back and forth relationship with yoga because it gave me so much, but then I also question. It's weird how you can empower something. You know what I mean?
Yes.
When I told myself that yoga was this thing and was so revered and was this ancient thing, it was my religion, so I did it.
The law of attraction.
Yeah, and now my understanding of yoga has actually disempowered pieces of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Finding
the truth.
I lift and stretch now. I stretch. So people ask me, how long has it been since you practiced yoga? And I'm like, it's been a pretty long time. I took a class a few months back, but like seriously practice, it's been a long time. But before, my practice was informed by needing to be ready to teach a class. So I need to have my finger on the pulse of all the transitions and what we're going to do. And I was really into trying to weave meaning into the stuff. And I wanted to make people cry during Shavasana and make it like, I mean, I really wanted to deliver. And I think that's what I think a yoga class is a really powerful package because it really does give you, if you've got a good teacher, it's opening your body, it's strengthening your body, it's strengthening your mind. Like that's the hardest class for me to sit through is a yoga class. Like teaching Jiu Jitsu training, that's easy because you can chat. Like I have to be silent for an hour or maybe more and be uncomfortable. I'm looking at myself. I don't like this thing here, and I'm doing, I'm in front, and this guy's behind me, and I'm seeing. It's like distracting. It's very. I think as an hour of your time is one of the coolest, like most useful all around uses of an hour of your time, what it delivers.
Oh yeah.
Which is weird because I don't do it that often anymore. But I've tried to pick it apart and for myself, what are the things that I got from it? What did I need? Like, what was it giving to me? What do I still need from it? It's weird. And some of what I said too, I don't, like I was talking about empowering a practice. I don't say that to disempower, because you'll hear people talk about like the energy of poses and stuff. Like this one is like the warrior poses. You're standing. They're supposed to make you like strong in your stance and firm and supposedly like holding a warrior one or warrior two for a few seconds or minutes before doing something scary can give you more bravery. But that makes sense. Like, I mean, just like hunching can make you, like, you're not going to feel as good. You know, it's like having good posture. And then if you're like, if you're putting arms overhead, like this is a good position. Yeah, I'm opening my body. I'm the opposite of hiding and scared, you know? So I think there are energetic aspects of it and stuff too. I do think that, if people didn't try so hard to make it yoga, where it's got to fit on this mat and be this thing, I think it would have evolved more. I think we would have even more skilled yogis and movers if they were willing to use more implements and tools to push poses further or push strength further and things like that. Like, there's nothing different between a yogi and a person practicing on gymnastic rings except for tools. They're both working through body awareness. If a person on the floor is practicing like handstands and different arm balances, they're practicing strength and lift. They're not stretching in an arm balance, and they're not stretching in a muscle up on rings. And I really think the only difference in those two things is just like access to equipment. Like in India, if they're going to be in a big flat room, they're not going to have a park where a bunch of Americans could each afford an expensive set of rings and they could all put it on a tree. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not saying that that's better and everybody should sell their mat and go get rings. Just that
it's limiting you, the mat.
I think that they limit. I think the word itself and the idea of like telling yourself it's ancient, so you've got to subscribe to a method, I think limits yogis themselves. You know, you have people like Ido Portal and some like the kind of movement culture. People that just call themselves movers, and they move in super interesting ways. A lot of them started in a yoga background and see how in yoga we transition, but we always got to come back to the vinyasa and then back to tadasana, and we're still. Whereas what if it didn't? What if you just were doing locomotion and you just continued your movement? There are some people who explore what that looks like. And I think the way that yoga is practiced now is the practice of moving in sequence with breaks to breath. It's like exactly that. But I think you could evolve that beyond. I think it's left where it is because that's by far the most marketable model is 30 people in a room paying per head. For sure, it's way better. It's way better than the Jiu Jitsu model. I mean, business-wise, it's way better for the building owner. You know, when you have people paying per head, the mat is as big as your body. If you needed the whole floor, I could fit 4 of you in here. And now all of a sudden, it's not a public class. You are my apprentice. You know what I mean? Like it's more like what Krishnamacharya had. Like 3 students. You live with me. You're going to train with me for the next 20 years. You know, that's how martial arts and all those that's how all the real practices were passed on back then. But now I teach jiu-jitsu in a public class. Yoga is passed on in a public class. Most of these gate-kept things that were like, you had to really be somebody to get in to learn these things at one point, you know?
To get that one-on-one.
Exactly. When you're probably told no, you're not worthy, and you try, you know what I mean? We all seen like the martial arts analogy of the kid, like it's raining and he shows up on the doorstep day after day till finally the master accepts him kind of thing, you know? Where now we go like, hey, I pay my dues, I come in and do my thing, and it's a business, you know? But so just like church, anything that requires receiving money to continue to operate will have a hard time being as honest all the time as it was before it needed money to operate. Like yoga, when it was done at the bottom of a cave and you're going to find some master or whatever, he had no vested interest in telling you anything but the truth. But now there's definitely a vested interest in making you feel better than you did when you showed up in a class. I want you coming back.
It keeps you coming back.
Yeah, exactly. I can't tell you the truth of like, you probably shouldn't even be here for another 6 months. That injury, you're not going to get anywhere in this class, you know, or it's actually dangerous for you to be here. Or if you're really deep on your yoga, then you seem like a Vata dosha person, and a heated class actually brings you out of balance. You should probably go to the yin class. This isn't even healthy for you. Like, that's true yoga teacher talk, but they're never going to tell a student that. You can't. You want everybody in your class, you know. So I think there are, but just like jiu-jitsu, I mean, if somebody came to me and asked me if I thought they could be a champion, I'm not ever going to tell anybody no to that question. But that might not be what the first thought that comes to my mind when they ask. My mind might go, you don't really seem like it. And I'm going to go, yeah, dude, just keep coming. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I hope none of what I said sounds like a dig at yoga either. I've had such an interesting long-term relationship with it, you know? Because where I stand right now, I'm a huge fan of it. I have an interesting relationship where, because I've even talked to like my priest about it, and he feels that it's the intention you put behind. He's actually likes yoga. He thinks it's the intention you put behind something. You kind of know in your heart where you're going when you say or do something, or who you're devoting it to. You know,
100%. I think that's such an important thing with life.
Yeah,
is your
that's
intention.
true.
Just living with that intention.
That's
Otherwise,
true.
You're just floating in the wind.
Yeah.
And going through the life and seeing whatever happens.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas if you're living with intention, you have a purpose.
Yep.
And you're driving towards something.
Yep. That is true. Yeah, that's interesting. It's good that there's a formalized physical practice. I can't think of another, like, let's say Hinduism as a religion and put yoga next to it and say this thing has a built-in physical practice. Christianity could stand to learn something from that, you know, if like maybe somebody's drawn to yoga as a fitness class and then they start to find some spiritual practice.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in the Christian religion.
Right.
Because there's nothing outside of salvation necessarily calling you towards it.
That's a good point.
Like what we're selling is salvation. But there's a lot of other things that are godly, like just taking good care of your body. That might be a good foot in the door for. I mean, yoga's winning a hard battle right now versus Christianity in the U.S. If we were just going religion versus religion, like a lot of people are shifting towards a new age spirituality under the guise of yoga.
For sure.
Because Christianity doesn't have, you know, any formalized physical practice, which, I mean, as I'm saying it right now, I'm like kind of shocked thinking about it, thinking that actually is
a great idea.
People love, like Christian people love yoga practice and things like that. But for any belief, why is there not or I should say, most people I know who are into the spirituality of yoga found it because of the poses of yoga.
Mm-hmm.
If we could find the poses of Christianity, or, you know, that's why I think you could and should look at the poses of yoga, the asanas, as what they're taught as, like without any of like the wrapped in with any deity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like sun salutation. A salutation is like a greeting, you know. We're obviously going up, and they say in Ashtanga it's important to put your hands together. It's like a prayer, you know. So a lot of modifications will open the hands and look up. But you're supposed to have them together, and you're supposed to look all the way up. If Christians did that every morning, they would be more Christian. You know what I mean? Like, if you're rising and going outside and looking up to God and putting your hands together, and you go down and prostrate yourself like Catholics Orthodox Christians, Muslims pray on their knees or all the way down on your stomach. They talk about prostrating in the Bible, but you don't see it a lot in modern church, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But to greet God and then to prostrate yourself, and you're breathing deeply with a feeling of gratitude and moving your body, that
That's
should
so
be a
powerful.
Christian practice.
It should be.
You know?
And then those are two things that the human body needs. You're getting 2 in 1. You're getting physical activity
Yep.
and spirituality
Yep.
together. And
Yep.
I think that's why it's so powerful and attracting so many people.
Yep.
And man, Christianity needs to take some notes from that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, in no small way, people are feeling God going to yoga class because they're reconnecting with their body, their own like central self, and they're having some type of religious experience. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been there,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
And you feel the spiritual connection with the other people in the room.
Yeah, that's true.
You
That's
can-
a part that I missed. You're right.
You feel the energy.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, there is a feeling to rise together and to come through that, and especially when it's difficult to end up on the other end of that thing where you guys all are still in the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you just highlighted something that I haven't consciously thought about that I get from a group class, but is definitely something I get from a group class.
Yeah. I noticed it because I did a class on my own. I missed the class. So I was like, let me try one at home.
Yeah.
So I did a little follow along with the laptop, and
Yep.
it was great, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah,
You
you're just
didn't
in your
feel
head
that
the whole time. And
yeah.
yeah, it's so
you didn't
true.
feel that connection from everyone else around you.
That's so true. And this is something I have, like, I'm not big into diagnosis, but I have like super strong ADHD, whatever those traits are, you know. And I think that's something that's really hard for me about yoga is like if I do it at home, I'm not even going 5 minutes on the video. I'm going to turn it off and go to
Distraction.
something else. And that's why yoga I think is really good for me in a class setting. It's the only time I sit down for an hour or do something for an hour and don't look at my phone and don't run out of this immediate experience. Like I am constantly looking for just a little escape from being present. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And a class like takes that excuse right away.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
does.
That's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that before, but there's a point. Have you taken Vinyasa class?
Yes.
Okay.
I've
There's
done
a point-
Vinyasa and Vinyasa.
Okay, awesome. So there's a point in Vinyasa classes during like one of the breaks. It's usually like around the abdominal stuff
Uh-huh.
where you're on the ground, where I'll go face down and I'm in my own sweat, where I always think about leaving, where I'm like, now's the time, Spence. Just grab the mat. Just grab it, dude. Nobody's going to judge you. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you don't even have to drive away. Just go wait out in the hall. And when the teacher comes out after class, just tell her it was too much. Like, she'll respect it. And then I'm like, and then I don't leave. And I stay up. I'm like, you know what? This is, I actually like this part. I'll stay through this pose. And I'm like, and then you finish class. And I'm like, super dehydrated, super tired. But there's definitely a shift. And it might be the same shift as if I ran a marathon. It might be like overcoming, like Joe Rogan calls conquering your inner bitch, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But really that's, my inner bitch is like 60% of me. Like seriously, it's like all of this right here is all inner bitch. It barely missed like most of my head. Yeah.
No, that's a huge point, and just conquering that inner bitch is proving it to yourself.
Yeah.
That you can overcome it.
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
true.
gonna translate into other areas of life. And
Yeah.
help you grow.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's something that a lot of people love about yoga.
Yeah, me too.
Because I mean, the hot yoga, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Dude,
so
it's
everyone
so hard.
goes through that with their mind at some
Yeah.
point. Like, am I gonna make it through this?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure everybody gets the same series of thoughts like, I wish I was a little bit leaner or a little bigger or like this, but
Yeah.
it's weird. Even though, and this is something I try to avoid, and I don't avoid it, but I try to. The performer comes out in me where I'm like, I kind of want to stand near the front. I know I'm pretty stretchy, and I know the poses, and like, I think I want to be an inspiring piece of yoga up here at the front of the class, which it makes me feel good, but I don't think it's probably a healthy, or I don't know, maybe it comes back to that like you got to like plan the party in, where if that's, some people may feel that they need to perform for people on some level, music, whatever it is.
Some people have that in them.
Yeah, and maybe if a yoga class can give me that little bit of like, hey, look at me thing, where it doesn't come out in a dark way, where I'm not stripping at a gay club or something somewhere, then that's better, you know?
Yeah.
Which I've never done. I mean, I really haven't, but if you know a place that pays well.
You mentioned a couple times chakras.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a new concept for me, newish. I mean, I'd heard of it, but I still don't have a deep understanding of it. But for me, it just seems like energy concentration points.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen a lot of different descriptions, but I know like chakra is supposed to mean like wheel, and they're opposing spinning energy centers, but I've seen in like a Western medical sense, all of them each equated to a gland in the body, which it could very well be. You know, I mean, each gland has a really important role in the body, where it could easily be that each one is equated to a gland, you know? And I think esoteric kind of spiritual concepts, you will find validity for them in the physical. Like you could have like a Western medical like chi. It's like bioelectricity, you know? Like you can find, if it's a true principle, that science will come around and prove it later kind of thing, you know?
Gotcha.
But yeah, the chakras are super interesting. And there's like an author named Anudaya Judith who's really renowned on the subject, and she would be able to teach it way better than I could. She teaches like a lot of the yoga world about chakras and stuff. But I think it's really interesting how to, like, nothing is worth anything to you outside of its usefulness for you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, who cares if it's real if you really have nothing to do with it?
Yeah.
But I think it's very interesting to look into, because if you have, maybe you have consistent digestion issues, that would be a specific chakra. And you could look at that point and see it can be spinning too fast, it can be spinning too slow, it could be not spinning at all, it could be out of balance with the others. I've seen things where they say it could be shifted to the right or shifted to the left. So I think it behooves somebody, if they haven't found an answer for something that they're going through, to dig down a road like that. And somebody like Judith or an author like that are really good for understanding it. That's something that you could go down and, or, you know, actually there's an author named Carolyn Mice, who's a PhD, and she did a book called Anatomy of the Spirit, and it is chakras from a Christian perspective.
Whoa.
She's a like quasi-Christian author.
Sounds
and
really
did a book called Anatomy of the Spirit that's really good. But like I said, like if you don't use it, if it's not, but if you're into physical stuff, it probably is going to be interesting to you. But on that same token, not all true things are like you things. Like not all, you don't have to know everything there is to know, even if it's very interesting and even if it's very useful. Just like the application of makeup. You know what I mean? It's interesting how somebody can look so much different, maybe so much more attractive, and it's very useful. But that doesn't mean that it's yours. You know what I mean? That there's a standpoint that maybe the knowledge of systems like that, just like the knowledge of hypnotism and telekinesis, there could be useful, and you could also do a whole lot of damage, you know?
Gotcha.
With something like chakras, I don't know if it's the same kind of thing, but I always if the Book of Enoch is true, and even math is something that was brought on, then I'm very wary of what I step down. An interesting quote from one of the saints, I can't remember which one now. He said that curiosity is not a virtue. And I'm a very curious person. It's led to a lot of what I've tried to find out. When I found out that there's this, when I saw a diagram of like energy lines in the body in like a martial arts book as a kid, and I was like, what? Are these the veins? And then it says like, I forget what it even called them, but they're channels where the chi flows. And it's like, it's not the veins, it's not the arteries, it's not the nerves, it's a whole different thing. And you're like, wait, this isn't in any medical books. What is this whole, and you realize there's this whole internal medicine, Chinese medicine or Ayurveda. They're different, but similar kind of Eastern things that we're not taught and know nothing about. But the curiosity of those things should only go as far as what it's going to do for you. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Think about the things that you could do with this laptop.
You could get lost
Horrible.
in a hole that
Horrible.
never ends.
You're using it for a good purpose, but yeah, it could be, you know. And so same with the study of chakras. If you're like, I just want to know, I would question that question more. But if you, I mean, what are you in need of? If you're in need of something that may answer a question or help you, then I think that's different, you know?
Yeah.
But
and I think you're right. It partly is curiosity of me because I've heard about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is that? I
Yeah.
mean, like the third eye, you got the throat, the heart, like what?
Exactly.
What is that stuff? And then I've seen it come up in several different areas and I'm like,
Yep.
What if this could help me?
Yes.
So I think that's where it drove my interest. And sometimes I'll just throw on put on some healing music for the throat chakra.
Yeah.
And while I'm in the shower.
Yeah.
Because I'm about to
I don't think there's anything wrong with
a
that.
YouTube video.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to talk clearly.
Yeah.
And maybe it helps, or maybe it's just me thinking it helps.
Yeah.
That actually makes it help.
Right.
But I've seen that make a difference.
Yeah. Well, I think you like I said this earlier, but it behooves you to empower it if you're going to use it.
Yes, you did.
Like
say.
if you're going to put on a healing song, don't be skeptical that it's not going to work.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, now you're just listening to music you probably don't like, and like, it's not your favorite song or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a beat to it, I'm sure. You know,
Right.
like, you're not putting it on because you love the way it sounds. You're
Right.
putting it on for a purpose.
Right.
So don't
The
disembowel the purpose out of it. You know, I think it's good to it is good and not naive to believe that those are spiritual tools that help us. You know,
For sure.
there's a lot like that, like Organite. Have you heard of that?
Organite?
Yeah. Organite's like, even the government tried to make it like illegal at one point.
What?
I mean, it's just a common, a Nazi scientist invented it in the 1940s named Wilhelm Reich, but it's like, I mean, just hippies sell it now. It's like a mixture of resin with crystals and metal and stuff, but it's shown to have really strong electromagnetic conductivity.
Interesting.
But of negative ions, which is supposed to be like purifying to the air, or to the, like Himalayan salt lamps and stuff release negative ions, supposed to purify the air. But Organite's one of those things. Like, it's definitely a spiritual tool.
Huh.
It's not magic. But actually, the definition of magic, it is magic. Like alchemy, it's literally like, they say that tying two sticks together is magic. Now, it's something that is not like that in nature. You've now taken something and made it different in a way that nature can't make it that way. That's magic. And so, Organite in its very form is magic, just in that it's alchemy, you know?
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of spiritual tools like that I think we read an edited Bible, that there's probably information that are spiritual tools like what some of these other religions use for their own purposes, that we had access to, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's interesting stuff, like we in Orthodoxy we use the sign of the cross, and I know they do in Catholicism too. And in Orthodoxy, they go from the right shoulder first to the left. In Catholicism, they do left to right, right? And in Orthodoxy, we put our fingers like this. And it's explained to us that it's the three, the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit together. And we go Father, Son, Holy Spirit this way. Before I got into Orthodoxy, when I was into paganism and other things, when I was concerned that I might be the subject of wicked magic, the recipient of evil magic, I looked into how to protect yourself. There's a magic, like a witch's magic ritual called the Lesser Banishing Ritual of Magic. And it's literally, they tell you to take these three fingers together. And this is outside of Christianity. To imagine you're grabbing a white light down from heaven to touch the forehead, the heart, and then the right shoulder and then the left with this hand position. And even Orthodoxy specifically. Now, I know from witchcraft that when I go to an Orthodox service, I'm doing the Lesser Banishing Ritual of Magic. But I don't think that's what it's in. That's not what they call it. But I do think that when we do it, it's doing that same thing that it does in witchcraft. It's protecting you from evil magic. But I don't think most Orthodox Christians know that or think of it because they haven't seen this bottom end of the evil side of it, of were you actually using it to stop psychic magic, you know? But so it's weird. So like you were saying, they are rituals in church, eating the blood and body of Christ, like all that kind of stuff. There's something to it. Because if you look into the rituals that the evil guys do, it's like a weird high school play. Have you ever seen it? Like the Masonic rituals and stuff? Yep. They have a guy walking through and they're like, give us the secrets of the Masons. And he's like, no, I will not. And it's like very high school musical. It's weird. But then you're like, what they're doing is a magical ritual. They're getting some kind of real earthly power out of what they're doing. It's the same at church. We're just doing it in the name of Jesus. But that's something that has deeply called me to the Orthodox Church outside of modern Christianity, is that somewhere we lost certain rituals that I do think, I won't call them magic because we think of magic as mystical.
Right.
But magic is the practice of witchcraft. You know, I mean, there's white magic, but I mean, really at the bottom line of it, magic is magic.
Right.
But we think of magical things. Yeah, exactly. We think of a magical, sparkly, like a fairy appears or whatever. That real word for that is mystical. And the mystical happening of psychic protection with a cross or something like that. The ancient church still has these mystical practices. And I don't think I would have stuck to it if I hadn't, like, there's all of the, like, fasting is already a part of like Buddhism or Hinduism. So there's these other beliefs that I went down where I'm like, oh, fasting is good. Like hierarchy is good. And like, if you look at Buddhist monks, like simple living and lack of attachment and that kind of stuff is good. So you come back around to now when I go into church on Sunday, I see like, oh, we're using spiritual tools. Like we're actually putting on the armor by doing this stuff. And it's not like a song and dance or symbolic. We're doing spells, but they're only called spells when they do it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
We're doing rituals, but they are mystical rituals that have some, I don't like what we would think of as a word magical, have some type of magical effect on the spirit, the mind, the body, and protection, you know?
I totally believe that.
So it's crazy that, because modern Christianity is mostly just words. We baptize, but we don't do a lot outside of that, communion and baptism. But I think when you go into the ancient church, Catholic, Orthodoxy, at the ancient version of them, they're the same church. So I call it the ancient church. They're seen as the same thing. The ancient church uses the same spiritual tools that the Satanists use, that Buddhists use. They're all it's meat, it's how you season it. Like we're doing it with this righteous intention, you know? But even like in evil beliefs, they actually sacrifice people.
Right.
We're not sacrificing. So people are like, well, the transubstantiation, do you think it's real blood or body? No, but I think that other rituals, they use real blood or body, and that we're using this because we are the sect of spirituality that isn't willing to murder somebody as a sacrifice for our spiritual gain. But we are still mimicking a sacrifice for spiritual gain, like we're eating this blood and body, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that there's something more what we would call magical to it than
Definitely
symbolic.
And that would be very interesting to look into those other practices that have been lost over the years with the new modernized churches, and see what other stuff they had. I mean,
Yeah,
I feel like some of that's been lost with the new age, probably.
definitely. Yeah, and I think even things that we look at as that the modern church looks at as new age might just be spiritual practices that I'm not in, like, the Bible's clear about divination. So there's certain things, tarot cards and some stuff like that, that I think it's pretty clear about. But there are other things like take the sign of the cross, take there are other sacraments, you know, confession. There's something powerful I really think about confession.
Oh yeah.
You know, they say the modern church has like 2 sacraments, baptism and communion, but that there's 7 sacraments in the ancient church. And I think my limited mind looks at them as like infinity stones. Like you're trying to collect these things. Like it's good for you to try and collect these sacraments. They are spiritual jewels in your armor, you know.
Wow. Yeah. Definitely.
Empower you to fight the witches and warlocks, you know.
It sounds crazy.
It does.
It sounds crazy, but we're living in a crazy world.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
We're living in a crazy world.
Yep. I mean, if you don't believe the Bible, it probably will. Or if you don't believe in any spirituality, it might sound crazy. But for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities and powers, spiritual powers in high places. And that's straight from the Bible. They're saying our enemies aren't physical. They really are spiritual, you know.
Yeah.
The real battle of ours, even in parenting, even in, man, I've thought a lot about this stuff with like Jiu Jitsu competition, of like what does it mean from this context? Does it have any value from this context, you know? Of if everything in your life is, from the moment you wake up to go to sleep, you're at war. There's a war going on for your soul. It's true. And people don't want to think that way. They want to relax. But that's true. I mean, that you're fighting that war for your soul, even in the way that you eat. If it affects your mental health, you know,
every action.
Yeah, exactly.
Every action and reaction, and there's constantly forces acting upon us.
Yes.
And we just got to keep going through them. I mean,
yep. Yeah, I think if you don't have a practice, something,
spirituality.
Yeah, it's just like that idle hands thing. Like, you have a practice, you just didn't choose it.
Yeah.
Something chose it for you. You better be very deliberate about the diet of your eyes, not just physical, like what you eat, but what you eat through your eyes, what you listen to, all of it, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, I think all of it is
protecting your energy, protecting your essence.
Yep.
Your soul.
Yep. We got to get you an Organite necklace. They wear them right here, and I'm telling you, I think it makes a difference.
Really?
It's a trip. I mean, it's just they show that your heart puts out a really strong electromagnetic signal, extremely strong. I'd butcher it if I tried to make up a number of what, but generally Organite, if you wear it, is worn right over the heart, and I feel like there is some kind of like strengthening of your field that goes on there.
Whoa.
And there's nothing new agey in my mind about when I put one on. I feel like God is helping me armor up if I do that, which I mean that's
awesome.
pretty like out there, but it's one of those weird. It's weird because I'm not wearing one right now, but it's one of those like kind of crystally hippie things that I used to be really into. That I definitely, even though I don't wear it, I feel like I have truly felt its effects.
Wow.
Definitely.
I'm open to trying it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. They did an experiment where they grew, and the government trying to make it illegal is a pretty good sign too.
Yeah,
Like
that's a
raw
great
milk,
point. Yep.
collecting rainwater. But they did an experiment where they put organite on the corners of one garden and then not on the other. And the vegetables that grew in this vegetable garden were like 12 times the size of the other one. Because it's what they absorb to grow right there. Orgone is the term that Wilhelm Reich used to describe. He was a student of Sigmund Freud. And so Sigmund Freud used the word libido to describe energy. Your libido is like your sexual drive, but it's that sexual drive is your zest for life, period. Libido was their word for like chi energy or prana. So Wilhelm Reich changed it to orgone. He liked the word orgone better. So orgonite is supposed to be this stuff that creates orgone energy, creates chi from its own field, you know? But as a plant grows, that's when it's photosynthesizing, it's turning light and water into that energy to grow. So if you are offering it a free supply of more of it, it clearly has more to borrow from. We've seen it. I'll just say a family member of mine grew like 14-foot weed plant back in the day. But there's these orgonite tubes that they make to stick in the ground that supposedly make your soil hyper fertile even. And I mean, this plant, it yielded like 2 pounds of cannabis from a single, and that's outdoors, a seed in the ground with water. But
that's insane.
That stuff is crazy. It really is crazy.
I'm gonna have to do some research on that.
Yeah, it's cool. You can find it all over. They tried to make it illegal for a while to sell, which is crazy because the main source of it is like people on Etsy, like just random, like, or like farmers markets. Like it's not, you can't buy it at Walmart. It's not like they have like cheap versions of it on Amazon, but it's way better to buy it from like an actual hippie who you know is like for real, like believes in the power of it because they're making it with a specific mixture.
Gotcha.
You know, in a very crude sense, apparently when you layer organic and inorganic material in layers, because of the layering between each layer, it traps ions. And when you put that in a matrix with quartz crystals, it traps negative ions. So it becomes a negative ion concentration device. But it's scientific. It was made by a scientist, not by a hippie. But he was saving a bunch of people's farms and stuff, and the FDA actually discredited him and like totally took him out.
Gotta love it.
Yeah, it's
good
crazy.
Old FDA.
He had cured over 2,000 people of cancer on a ranch of his called Organon. He had a little box that they would sit in and meditate in called Orax. And they would sit in this box and meditate, and it was just layers of, I think, felt and wood, because between the layers it would trap the orgonite. And now he didn't add crystals to the mix. That was added by a guy named Don Croft in the early 90s. They say before that it attracted both types of ions, and your intention is the one that it kept and loaded into you. But he had cured over 2,200 something people on his ranch of cancer before the government came and said, you can't claim you're curing cancer. That's not possible. And totally discredited him and stuff, which is crazy. But I've thought about making one of those boxes, just like sit and nerd out in, but I want to grow like a third arm or something.
Dude, I want to hit one more topic before we wrap it up.
Absolutely.
Jiu Jitsu.
Oh, nice.
Save the best for last.
Yeah, heck yeah. Dang, I mean, just off of the
what does Jiu Jitsu mean to you?
Dang, that's a good question. If I had to put in very few words, it has like, and this is something, I say this with reverence, but also before I say it, I also hate jiu-jitsu, but it has given me like everything. I think everything that it's like so much of who I am, and so much of the quantifiable blessings and the ones I couldn't even think of right now. It's crazy how good jiu-jitsu has been to me in my life. And like I said, I say that with saying that I hate it too. Like the pain I'm sitting here in is from it, for sure. But I wouldn't be, I mean, I know you through it. And I'm not saying like, it's a good thing I know jiu-jitsu. I met you, like now my life has changed. But like, it's, I don't want the answer to sound too deep. And I don't want it to be too shallow for what jiu-jitsu is. But I mean, I truly think it's the best form of self-defense. If you had to learn one martial art, I think there's, hands down, it's got to be the best.
No doubt.
I know a lot of kickboxers are rolling in their gloves right now. Yes. They're ooshing the air right now. We don't get cool noises with our moves. If a guy yells on the mat, everybody looks. But it gave me, I mean, a career. I met my wife there. I think that it gave me 95% of my self-confidence, honestly. Where there's something different about you if you know you can fight, where like I don't even know what it looks like, but I know other dudes that can fight and I know they have it too. And I'm like, there's something different, you know? Even like me, like I think feeling confident with girls is such a huge thing for men to feel fulfilled in life. And honestly, I think it even gave me that. Like, I don't think I was confident around women before I did jiu-jitsu. Like,
now you have nothing to prove.
Yeah, it did. Well, I don't know if that's true, but that's the idea for sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think, I don't know.
I mean, like, physical-wise.
Physical-wise, yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to, like, you're right that I don't have anything to prove, but it's funny because there used to be this thing in jiu-jitsu where people say you can't get to black belt and like not be cool. Like if you get to black belt, for sure you're cool. But now jiu-jitsu is widespread enough now where some people have somehow made it that far and they're like not good people still, you know?
Yeah.
But I think as a vehicle for self-actualization, I mean, even my professor, Tom DeBlas, is like one of the most admirable human beings I've ever met. Like through and through. That dude, he does like the buddies over bullies and like public initiatives and stuff, but behind closed doors, that dude is a leader. Like he is. Yeah. That dude is a powerful leader. He has been there for some like really intense situations in my life too. Even before we were on the relationship level that we are now. And I don't even know anybody. I don't even have any connections like that outside of jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu's never connected me not with some high tier person, but with a person who would help me hide a body, with a person who will help me climb that hill, help me get over the relationship, help get over whatever court battle, it's everything, you know?
Sense of community.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And a community where you're forced to like hug. Like we're like forced to be close. It sounds weird to say we touch each other, but like we touch, but we are going through something difficult and like not sure if we're going to make it. Like all the way along the belt grades, you're like, am I going to make it? Am I going to be one of those black belts? You know what I mean? Like you're like, or in competing or in a hard workout, even like, am I going to make it through this round? Like, I think it turns you, I think it's the single greatest thing I have found, but I think for most people that I've seen find it's been the greatest vehicle for transforming their life.
No doubt.
I've ever seen out of anything.
No
you
doubt.
know? Even if people didn't have an interest in self-defense or fighting, I still think that they would like jiu-jitsu if they gave it the right chance and should absolutely try it, you know? And it's my bottom line. It's a business that I run, but I mean, our mats are packed. It doesn't have to be at my gym. I think everybody man, woman, or child, they need to give it an honest shot. And if you don't like where you tried it, or you don't like something about it, try it somewhere else. But like, I really don't think I would be this person. I don't think I would have this heart of love, or I don't think I would like believe in the good of people the way that I do. I don't think I would. I can't sum it up enough, and I don't give jiu-jitsu enough credit, because once it's your job and it's beat you up a little bit, sometimes you try to avoid it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I give it enough credit for making me, like, giving me everything that, and of course I got to give God the credit, but God knew that jiu-jitsu was going to be this part of my life, you know? But yeah, I mean, God, jiu-jitsu, Tom, you know, like,
Man.
God's the obvious first, but the impact jiu-jitsu has had in my life, and the impact that Tom's leadership has had in my heart and in my mind since then is, it's been the biggest impact of any personal relationship in my life, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, big time.
That's insane. And I feel the same. It's completely transformed me too.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. It's the hardest thing I do.
Yep.
And the funnest.
Yep.
And it's helped me evolve in so many ways. It's hard to put into words. So I think you did a great job.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
But how important do you think it is for kids to train?
I think that it should probably be mandatory for a certain level. I've heard somebody say, like, my kid doesn't want to train, and I heard the guy counter saying, your kid also didn't want to learn to piss or shit in the toilet, and like they were going in their pants till you made them make that change.
Yes.
And it's like,
I had to make my son do it.
Yeah.
He did not want to go.
With jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Dang.
He was crying. He's like, no, I don't want to go.
Oh, dang.
I'm like, too bad.
Yep.
You're going.
Yep.
First day, he loved it.
Oh, good.
He loved it.
Good.
And now it's his favorite sport.
Yep.
So it's like,
that's awesome.
Oh, I'm so glad.
I think it gives kids the widest array of movement background too. Like if they want to be a surfer or a football player or whatever, I think they'd be better off to do that thing by doing jiu-jitsu at a young age.
Yeah.
Because you get tumbling, and they get such a wide, varied movement experience
How
where
to
they've
use
shown
your body
yeah, exactly.
in so many different ways.
It's supposedly not better to specialize at a young age. Like you put a kid in baseball so he can be the fastest pitcher by the time he's 26. It doesn't work like that. It wears out their elbow. Apparently, it's actually better to give the kid the most varied movement experience until they're in their teens as possible. But that doesn't, so they say, well, put them in baseball one season, put them in soccer the next. What that does is make a kid think they suck at every sport because they don't have them long enough to get good at anything.
That's true.
So you put a kid in jiu-jitsu now, they're grabbing, they're throwing, they're running, crawling, rolling, walking on their hands, they're jumping, they're even playing off the walls. Like you're moving throughout your environment like parkour or gymnastics, but you're also stretching, doing mobility like yoga. I mean,
and surviving getting smashed.
Yeah, and then you're also like learning to defend yourself,
mentally
which
tough.
Your kid needs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I also heard you only do sports through school.
Right.
Jiu-jitsu is a lifelong journey.
Yeah, that's true.
So you can do your sports. Maybe you make it to college or the pros.
Yeah.
But jiu-jitsu, you can do it for life.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and it's easier. I mean, you can't open a football school when you graduate high school,
True that.
But I mean, I had this path of jiu-jitsu where I'm like, I had to make some money. I got to do something. And this is the only thing I know, Yeah, where it's actually, I was homeschooled, like I had mentioned, and it actually offers you, like if I liked baseball, I wouldn't have the same opportunity as a public schooled kid.
No doubt.
With jiu-jitsu, we can train the same. We both I might have time to do homeschooled lessons in the daytime of jiu-jitsu while you're at public school. And then at nighttime, we both train. And at the competition, I don't need some collegiate body to get me through to a competition,
Right.
It's probably cheaper in the long run than public school sports now with what they cost. Like, you think public school is state funded and you don't have to pay for it, but Try getting your kid into a sport and see what that costs when they've got to go to New York and they got to sell candy bars to fund for or whatever. It's way easier to go to a tournament in El Paso with your kid and actually be able to be there. And, you know,
Yeah.
I think it's a smarter sport to put kids in. And I know kids too that did it like through high school and they were the cool kid. They didn't have to be a wrestler or a football player or anything at their school. People knew that they did jiu-jitsu and would womp butt if somebody pulled anything, you know?
Yeah.
Like it made them the cool kid in high school. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be a collegiate sport, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
tying in with what you just said about being a professor,
Mhm.
teacher, how, when did you know you wanted to become one and what led you to that?
dang. I started teaching private Muay Thai classes to two guys. One of them now is engaged to my sister.
Wow.
When I was 15 in my backyard for $5 a week.
Whoa.
Yeah. So for $5 a week, they would come into the loose dirt of my parents' backyard and hit pads and hit the bag. And then I started teaching a karate class with my dad, 9 classes a week at a gym here that was called Dragon's Den when I was 18. And I got my black belt when I was 18 in karate. So I was already doing that and I loved it, but I also felt overworked and I hated teaching kids classes. But I loved the kids. It was because the parents like try to co-teach with you off the mat. And I was like, I couldn't handle that, you know? I think that in my young teens, I knew that I wanted to run a school, but I thought because I did martial arts as a kid through my dad. And I thought that I wanted to like compete a lot. I definitely wanted to be in the UFC early on. That was like a big part of the dream. And so it was always like, nobody in this thing is really that great unless they're like a jiu-jitsu guy also. Like if I'm going to go far in that, I need to learn jiu-jitsu. I knew striking pretty well and stuff, and I was doing judo and like I was doing MMA. I had already fought MMA before I ever trained jiu-jitsu. But when I finally found like the true art of jiu-jitsu and like what it really was and it made sense to me, I was like, I did one more MMA fight, but then I didn't even want to fight anymore. I was like, the purity of movement for me is without the strikes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's like a concussive like staccato that breaks the syncope of a jiu-jitsu roll if there's strikes. It takes away the flow, you know? Yeah, and so over time I just became like I never understood how some like surf bum just lives on the beach and they're like just happy if they can catch a wave. And that was for me when I really understood jiu-jitsu. It's like, if I can just get here, I don't need to eat. I don't need anything. I just need a ride to training. You know what I mean? Like that was everything. And my parents always had this rule. We didn't have to pay rent to live under their roof as long as we were either gainfully employed or in school. So we either had to have a job or be in school to live there for free. So if we didn't have a job or weren't in school, we had to pay rent or leave, which they're nice parents. It was a soft rule.
Yeah.
But they wanted us employed or in school. But they considered me being in jiu-jitsu schooling.
Nice.
So they let me like train all that I wanted in the daytime. I would train day and night, not like obsessive, like I was always there every day and night. But after I did my first jiu-jitsu comp, it was a grappling comp. I wasn't like officially doing BJJ, but it was around the time when I was doing MMA. But I did my first jiu-jitsu comp in 2006. So that's 18 years ago.
Wow.
Yep. And the only year I haven't competed is this year and 2020, because they shut everything down.
Mm-hmm.
So there wasn't an opportunity to do a tournament that year. But outside of that, I've competed every year in something since, which I don't have the competition bug. I don't like it. I totally hate it, but it's something I
Me
really
too.
do.
Me too.
It's something I do
nerve-wracking.
to so that I'll believe myself that I am who I say I am.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I don't. I mean, if I go too long without competing, I stop believing it. Like, I get full on imposter syndrome where I'm like, I'm not a black belt. I'm not even out there fighting, you know? So I don't even do it because I like it. I don't really care for the medals. I hate the feeling. I know some of my students like to see it, which I totally get. I loved to see my first professor compete. But I think that as scary as it is and like as difficult as it is, like something about it is good for you when you're on the other side of it, you know?
Oh yeah.
Which is tough because my wife and I have been going through this, you know, big transformation in our life of like just where we sit with everything, you know, like what is the worth of this thing? Like competing, we could go, but it's going to cost us this much. And the like let's say we pay $500 and go to this tournament. What's the very, very, very best you got from it? For me, it's like my students may be a little inspired. We can put some content out, whatever. And I was like, however hard I'm going to train for that thing, whatever time I might miss parenting and all of this to try and become this guy, if I'm going to sell it to myself as, well, it's good for the business, that time would be spent better at learning business. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like posting on social media or whatever. So that's an excuse. It's really not that great for business for the coach to compete. It gives me less time to give to my students and all of that. So, because Itza, my wife, likes to compete too, and and she's a heck of a competitor. It's rare that she doesn't get first place. Very rare. And we've been struggling with the desire to do it, even though we know we don't like it, and the end result is kind of opaque. It's not really clear what we're getting out of it, you know?
You don't feel that sense of accomplishment after just because you didn't want to do it, and it's kind of like that feeling of yoga. You wanted to avoid it, but you went in there and you did it anyways, and you got it done.
Yes, I definitely
feel that
do.
every time.
I do get that. I
don't
do
wanna
get that,
do
and
this.
it is a good big feeling. I do get a miniature version of it though from dishes and laundry because I hate those just as much.
That's true.
But I don't. What's weird is I'll leave those in the sink for 3 months if I can and train for a whole tournament. I'll train for the whole tournament and pay and break my back and then go compete before I'll want to take care of that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
It's just been that battle of like, at some point, I try to be careful of like the Peter Pan syndrome, you know, of just like, I'm going to be young forever and I just want to compete and do, and this is my thing. Like at some point it's not going to be my thing.
Right.
And somebody had commented, I was thinking about doing one, and they're like, they made a comment about if I went and broke my leg and then like coming back to work and parent. And I was like, crap, dude, if somebody did break my leg, what would I tell Jasper? He's like, why that happened? It's like, well, yeah, but I earned our family's money for the year. It's like, well, that's not what happens when I compete, you know? When I compete, if I lose or get hurt, I'm just less effective in every other area of my life, including for my students, you know?
That's a great point.
So it's been tough. How much is that little you get from it worth it for competing, you know? Like you get that thing, but what is... So, and I'm not trying to give that answer by I'm being devil's advocate right now, trying to make it seem like trying to repeat the thoughts that have been in my head to come out in the middle somewhere. Like I'm trying to say all the reasons it might not be worth it, because it's obvious maybe why it's worth it. Like you're competing, like you want to be a badass. You're the best at jiu-jitsu. You're the best that day. You know you could win in a fight. Whatever. There's a lot you can get from it. As a man, as a masculine entity, to conquer and overcome, there's a lot you can get from that. Especially if it was doing it over another man. Like that's you get
another
a boost.
trained man.
Yeah, that's true. If like Jordan Peterson talks about how lobsters, when they fight, the one that wins gets like permanently higher testosterone and serotonin and stuff. There must be something like that when we beat the brakes off of a dude in real life, in person, you know?
No doubt.
And the part that sucks is it works the other way when you lose. Like I've shrunken down just a little bit more. Probably the last 4 tournaments I did were not good ideas. In each of them, I was just like, I'm not in great shape. Things aren't going well with my body, but it's close. And I made this promise to myself, you know? And I would say even a hair, I do regret a few of them. And I know people say you'll never regret getting out there. I actually do. And so that's like, there's one that I just missed. That last Naga that we went and did as a team. I thought about doing it and then didn't. And even that, I'm on the boat. I'm like, part of me's like, you bitched out. And then part of me's like, it probably would have been like the other last 4 where it's not, you know, when you're going out there at black belt, it's very kill or be killed. I have to assume the other guy isn't coming out with a dull sword. And I kind of am. I'm like, well, I do great at open mats. I do great when I roll with people, but comp is so different. Exactly. And comp is so different. They're coming out with they see me as a trained killer. They're probably afraid of me too.
Yeah.
And so they're coming out with their supreme cut.
A game.
They don't miss, you know? And if I come out there, honestly, in a lot of matches after black belt, I came out just piss and vinegar right after black belt. And I did okay. The first tournament, I won 2, lost 2. And then I did an EBI. I got a chance to do EBI, which was like huge. And I was the local guy on the card. They wanted one local guy on the card, and I applied, and they took me. So it was huge. That's still, I mean, that might be the biggest showing I'll ever have, you know? And it wasn't a great one. I didn't look like a slouch or anything in it, but it wasn't my weight class. I was 155er, but I was like, I didn't think that EBI was going to come back to El Paso. It had always been in Cali. They were doing one in El Paso. I was like, this is chance of a lifetime. But even that one, I don't know that it was, I think some performances like that, maybe it's the Constitution. Like maybe I'm weak-minded, but I think some of those experiences can steal away from you more than they leave you with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've felt that.
I can see that. And I've felt it in some of my experiences too. I mean, I've had 3 injuries. Yeah. My elbow, torn MCL, and
the rib too,
my
right?
rib. Yeah. Which was the least of the 3, but still, it's an injury that keeps you out.
Yep.
And every time I'm like, man, was that worth it?
Yep.
But then it comes back and I end up saying yes, because each time I learned something. Yeah. Like with my knee, I learned the knees over toes program to rehabilitate it. Yeah. Which I still do to this day. Yeah. And it's increased awesome my mobility, all that. The elbow, it's taught me to lift lightweight and make it feel heavy. Yep. Which has improved my form and all that. So I'm like, yes, maybe everything happens for a reason, and it ended up being a good thing. But then I'm like, man, I'd really like to lift some heavy weight right now. Yeah, exactly. And I can't. Yeah. Because my elbow's shot. Yeah. So I do see what you mean there. It's a tough balance. Yeah. Deciding to compete or not. Is it worth it? Yeah. Yeah, when it really like that, like with the elbow, I mean, it depends on what, like if you worked on an oil rig, you'd be screwed, you know. Toast. So it totally depends. I mean, even if you were a lawyer, it looks really bad to come in and represent your client with a broken arm. It just doesn't look right to come in with a sling on, or you know, or to be on crutches. Like it's weird because we have lawyers at the gym, and I'm like, you're not ever worried about showing up to court on crutches. Like you have a court date, you can't just like tell the judge like, well, I have to reschedule. I do an extreme sport, and like I don't look good, you know, or show up with a black eye, you know. That's also the duality of it, though. Yeah, you're playing with fire.
Yeah, exactly. And is that smart or necessary is the question. I mean, I sit here
probably
as
not smart.
Yeah, I sit here as a seller of jiu-jitsu, and you know, my career resides on people liking this thing. But you got, you know,
you can also train without competing.
Yes, and you can train safely. I mean, people ask me like the worst injuries I've had, and I'm like, most of them happened at like blue belt. Like things have been pretty good for a pretty long time. Like it's like chronic disc stuff that is developed from all kinds of stuff, you know. But most major things, like I think I train pretty smart now. I haven't had anything outside. My last injury was a competition last year. I haven't had anything other than that, you know. So
I haven't told you this before, but one of my dreams is to open up my own gym someday.
oh, no way.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Back in my last gym, I moved out to Dallas, so I was all alone, out of college. I needed something.
Yep.
So that's what led me to jiu-jitsu, and man, those people became my family.
Yep.
Away from
100%.
home.
Yep.
So it was an incredible feeling, just home, family, love.
Yep.
And I want to be able to create that for other people as well as impact the kids, because once I got my son into training, I was there during his classes, so I was like, shoot, I might as well help coach, because
Oh, yeah, that's
I'm
true.
just standing here.
Yep.
So then I started helping coaching, and that was a blast.
Yep.
And at the tournaments, seeing those kids, the way their faces would light up when they won a match,
That's so true.
man, that's just one of the best feelings I've ever had.
Yep.
Just seeing those kids light up.
Yeah, that's true.
So, man, I'd love to be able to give back, because I feel like that was one of the best things that I've ever done community service-wise.
Yeah.
Just
That's cool.
helping people
Yep.
learn jiu-jitsu,
Yep.
build that bond, and I'd love to be able to create an atmosphere
Yep.
that does that.
That's dope.
Helping the community.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's so huge, bro. I mean, our Zia,
Yeah.
it's a family, dude.
Yep.
It's a
yeah,
family.
they are.
And
Definitely.
anywhere I've gone, jiu-jitsu people are just good people, man.
Yeah.
Of course, you got a few
Yeah, right?
bad rocks or
Yeah,
whatever,
exactly.
but mostly people. They
Yep.
they know the struggle that you've been through, and it's just good people.
Yep.
Good people.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. It connects you with anytime like I travel, or if people ask me like if they're moving to a new place, like, dude, the best way to integrate with the new community is to find a jiu-jitsu school. Go roll. Like, how can you're gonna get invited to the barbecue or like to the hangout way faster than any other social circle. Like, there's nowhere to run off and talk without you or anything. Like, the cliques are all right there on the mat. Like, everybody's there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think Zia is a family. I think we work really hard. My business partner, Mark, also is brown belt student of mine.
Heck yeah. Coach Mark.
Yeah, Coach Mark's the best. That's one of the greatest. I didn't mention it earlier, but I mean, things that jiu-jitsu has brought me, like his family, himself especially, but in Coach Jackie too, his wife. Some of the like greatest, most selfless. I mean, Coach Mark is absolutely one of, if not my best friend in the world. You know, such a. It brings you to stand-up people, and it makes stand-up people more stand-up people. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it
builds character.
Yep. It really connects. You know those people that are, and I don't like the word progressive, but like forward thinking, where you meet somebody and you're like, this person is a 10. Like, they're going for this thing. Like, I want to hang out with this person. Like, they're in shape. They seem funny. They have personality. They seem like they have community. They're connected to things. They have a life. And I like their life seems like something analogous to something I would like to live. Those are almost always jiu-jitsu people. When I meet those people and you find out they train, you're like, that's it. I get it now. You're fucking one of us, you know?
Mm-hmm. Another crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
We do this for fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I really think that's the number one place you stand to meet your best people. I think, and I tell people, I mean, when people first come in, like we talked about it earlier, I think opening a school is one of the coolest opportunities you have from jiu-jitsu. It's like, whether or not you start out doing it for that, it's cool because you're training self-defense. You might be a border patrol agent or doing it as something like even for your line of work. And then you've got this new line of work open. If you want to be a business owner, This is the fastest growing sport in the world. Like, you just need a square room. You don't even have to order product every month. You don't have to go, how many protein shakes do we sell? Get another bucket of this thing. Like, you know what I mean? You acquire bodies, you teach them the art, you keep it clean, you keep it open. Like, it's a good business, you know? Which is crazy that the most popular sports in our nation, you can't do that with. You know, I mean, your closest bet would be to wrestle in school so that you are better at teaching jiu-jitsu. Because you can't really even open an adult wrestling school, but you can open a jiu-jitsu school and everybody will ask you, do you have wrestling classes here? Like that, they do that all the time. But if you open a wrestling class school, first of all, it probably won't stay open. Nothing wrong with wrestling, but it's just not a huge adult pastime. No. They use it in jiu-jitsu to get better at jiu-jitsu, you know? Mm-hmm. But you wouldn't walk into a wrestling room and be like, do you guys do jiu-jitsu here? You know, but they do that with jiu-jitsu. Even walk into jiu-jitsu school and ask if they do kickboxing or MMA. It's like, but you don't walk into a karate school and ask if they do jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Jiu-jitsu is kind of this thing. It's like this base art along with wrestling of MMA, where you expect the other MMA arts to kind of be where jiu-jitsu is, you know? So jiu-jitsu schools are just a hub of realistic fighting, because there's usually boxing, wrestling, kickboxing, something. It's the arts that spar for real and train for real and actually fight will generally localize in a jiu-jitsu academy, you know?
Yeah.
So some real Spartans there.
No doubt.
Seriously.
What are your top 3 favorite books?
Oh, dang. That's a good one. I'll put... All right, I don't want... Because if we've mentioned the Bible so much, where... I'll put that like as one of like favorite.
Right.
I mean, also just...
Not including the Bible.
To be a good guy. Yeah, exactly.
It's a book of its own.
Yes, exactly. All right. Then let's go... My most gifted book that I've actually bought and given to a lot of different people throughout my life is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Okay.
That's a really good book.
I've seen it, but I have not read that one.
Yeah, it's all around. I mean, and you can find it in like used bookstores too, because it's such a popular one. But it's kind of a business book, but it's written to a single person, single entity. But he just does such a good job of just creating this basic system for self-development and like where to start and I think it's digestible and would make sense to anybody. I think it leans towards an intelligent reader, but so does helping yourself in general. Self-improvement literature leans towards, or business literature especially leans towards an intelligent reader. You know, I think a lot of self-improvement stuff can deliberately pander to like a lower hanging fruit kind of audience, but 7 Habits is a big one. A couple years ago, I would have said Siddhartha. Do you know of that book?
I do not.
It was written by Hermann Hesse, I think in 1925, and he won a Nobel Peace Prize for it. He's a German author. It's supposed to be the story of how Siddhartha became Buddha. And it's really interesting, but it's just... In a short book, I think it did a really good job of summing up what exactly they were trying to say in the book and what maybe the main thread of Buddhism, what it's trying to share.
Wow.
It's super, it would be very hard to define why. It's kind of an out there book, but it's pretty small. It's very easy to acquire because I think it's past whatever the press print thing is, where it's like open source book now, where I think it's free even online. Gotcha. You know. I wish I was gonna say for the third one like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius or something like that, like something super deep.
It doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Well, I want it to be, but I'm trying to think of books that I've legitimately finished reading, but these answers are only to say where I've gotten like where I'm at, but I would say the last one is a book called The Mirror of Yoga.
Okay.
It's I mean, the spirituality of yoga and what we were talking about, if you want to learn about that and go deeper and figure it out, it's the best one I've ever heard. It's really, really, really good.
Wow.
It goes deep. It's entertaining. They define everything well. Like for a Western audience, it's very accurate in like spellings and pronunciations of everything. Yeah. So I would say 7 Habits. There's a bunch of little ones that are popping in my mind, but I'll keep it at this. 7 Habits, and then Siddhartha, and I'll say The Mirror of Yoga.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll stick with those 3. But let's do an honorable mention though to The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Nice.
I don't know if that's a really good one.
Yes, I have that one, but I have not read it yet.
It's really
it's sitting
good.
on my table right now.
Dude, it's really good. It will give you the travel bug for sure. It's very interesting.
Right on.
Yeah, it's really well done.
If you could go back and give 18-year-old Spencer some advice, what would you say?
I would say, I know you've got a lot on your mind and are probably like really worried about if it's going to work out, but it's going to work out. And I know you don't know what Bitcoin is yet, but buy it when it comes out. No, and I would say fight. Like, don't be afraid. Take the fights, eat the losses, and to believe in yourself and keep going. You know that.
That's powerful.
Yeah, there's something now that you want, and you're not going to be able to get it later, and it's got to be now. You know what I mean?
Go get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's, I don't have a lot of regret, but I think I left a piece of myself in my 20s not fighting more. I don't think it's a great path to do now, and I do wish, if I have one big kind of regret, I wish I pushed that harder. I think I could have gotten into the UFC. I know I could have. And I don't know if that's what God had intended for me. I mean, maybe it probably wasn't. That's why I am where I am. But I would say in a serious way I would tell 18-year-old me that he's got what it takes, and to really believe in himself, and to listen to your coaches, and don't be afraid to take matches. Take a lot of matches and get that experience,
Incredible.
Definitely.
Right on. You got any projects coming up? What are you working on?
Sorting myself out. That's been what it is this whole time. Cleaning up my room. Really, so last year I made my New Year's resolution for this year was to not compete in jiu-jitsu, because the way my mind still works is, there's one in El Paso coming up. It's time to get ready. Like to chronically compete. And so my goal was to not do that, to see what else could unfold, And in this year that I haven't competed, I've gotten married. We moved into a bigger house.
It's 2 big milestones. Right
Yeah,
there.
yeah, and they've been amazing, man. I didn't have real consistent, and I mean, I tried to through court, but just at the time it wasn't the way things were. I didn't have real a lot of time with my son week to week, and now I have a lot of time, overnights and multiple days at a time with him, where I really feel like I can full on be the dad I want to be now.
Amazing.
So I would say that's what's coming up, is getting healthy again, as far as not really taking inventory of my diet and kind of playing that line of health and performance, but shifting it back towards health and longevity, and seeing what performance does. Do I become a cyclist because I can't lift as you know what I mean? Like, just what happens. I would say that's my project. Trying to, when I wake up, what is like Spencer working on? I'm thinking of like I want to know what God wants me to do, like in his kingdom, or to help further his kingdom, or to reach my potential. And I really want to, like, I'm really focused on the family right now. Like, I really want to be a good husband. I really love my wife, and I love, this is going to sound so gay. I love loving her. Like, I love the relationship that we have when you see what loving somebody does, and that, like, you can go so much further when it's right. You know what I mean? That, like, those two equals like 3 or 4. It's like super I'm sorry, man.
You're good.
It's super amazing. Super it's I never thought this as like a dude with like a lot of past relationships, but and most married guys won't tell you this, but I think marriage is the shit. It's been awesome.
It looks awesome.
Yeah,
You guys
so I
got an
think
amazing.
That's my, if I in short words, that's my project this year for sure.
That's beautiful, man.
Being married, figuring it out, you know.
It's beautiful.
Heck yeah.
That's where the journey starts.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
That's where the journey starts.
Yep.
It's admirable, and I can't wait to get married someday.
Heck yeah.
I look up to you guys. I look up to you. Thank you. You're an
Thank you,
incredible
man.
leader in our community.
Thank you, brother.
And thank you for coming on for this podcast. I really appreciate it.
Heck yeah. Thank you,
It was
man.
a great conversation, and we're going to have to do another.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to. I look forward to it.
Right on, brother.
Heck yeah.